Get up to 6 accounts per household and unlimited DVR space included.
One time. Yeah. Yo, all I need is one mic, one beat, one stage, one nigga front, my face on the front page. If I had one gun, one girl and one prayer, one God to show me how to do things. The sun get pure, like a couple virgin blood. Next with 151, one sip will make a nigga flip. Writing names on my hollow tips, plotting shit, mad balance. Who I'm gonna body this hood politics, acknowledge it. Leave bodies chopped up in garbages. Seeds watch us grow up and try to follow us. Police watch us roll up and try knocking us. One knee I duck, could it be my time is up? With my luck I got up, the cop shot again. Bus stop glass bursts, a fiend drops his Heineken. Ricocheting between the spots that I'm hiding in. Blacking out, I shoot back, fuck getting hit. This is my hood, I'm a rap to the death of it. To everybody come home, little niggas is grown. Hood rats, don't abortion your wound. We need more warriors soon. Sent from the stars, sun and the moon. And it's like a police chasing street sweepers and coppers. Stick up kids with no conscience, leaving victims with doctors. If you really think you ready to die, with knives out, this is what knives is about, nigga. The time is now. All I need is one mic, one mic, one mic. All I need is one mic, one mic, one mic. That's all I need. All I need is one mic, one mic. All I need, niggas. All I need is one mic, one mic, one mic. Yeah. All I need is one blunt, one page, and one pen, one prayer. Tell God, forgive me for one sin. Matter of fact, maybe more than one. Look back at all the hatred against me. Fuck all of them. Jesus died at age 33. That's 33 shots from twin Glocks and 16 apiece. That's 32, which means one of my guns was holding 17. 27 hit your crew, 6 went into you. Everybody gotta die sometime. Hope your funeral never get shot up. Bullets tear through the innocent, nothing is fair. Niggas roll up, shooting from wheelchairs. My heart is racing, tasting revenge in the air. I let this shit slide for too many years, too many times. Now I'm strapped with a couple of max, too many nines. If y'all niggas really with me, get busy, load up the semis. Do more than just hold it, explode the clip until you empty. There's nothing in our way. They bust, we bust, they rust, we rust. Let fly, feel it, I feel it in my gut that we take these bitches to war. Lie them down, cause we stronger now, my nigga. The time is now. All I need is one mic. All I need is one mic. There's nothing else in the world. All I need is one mic. That's all a nigga need to do his thing, you know. All I need is one mic. All I need is one life, one try, one breath. I'm one man. What I stand for speaks for itself. They don't understand and want to see me on top. Too egotistical, talking all that slick shit the same way these bitches do. Wonder what my secrets is. Niggas will move on you only if they know what your weaknesses. I have none. Too late to grab guns. I'm blasting cause I'm a cool nigga. Thought I wouldn't have that ass done. Food you niggas, what you call an infinite brawl. Eternal souls clashing. War gets deep. Some beef is everlasting, complete with thick stars. Brothers knifing each other up in prison yard. Drama, where does it start? You know the block was ill as a youngster. Every night it was like a cop would be killed. Body found in the dumpster. For real, a hustler. Purchased my range. Niggas throwing dirt on my name. Jealous as fiends like they were to play. They shot me cause they thought it was finished. Should've known she wasn't true. She came to me when a man caught us in the stymie of blinded. I never made the same mistakes. Moving with a change of pace, lighter load. See now the king is straight. Swelling my melon cause none of these niggas real hurting. Tell the police how can the kingpin swear? This is crazy. I'm on the right track. I'm finally found. You need some soul searching. The time is now. All I need is one mic. One mic. Yeah. All I need is one mic. One mic. That's all I ever needed in this world. Fuck cash. All I need is one mic. One mic. Fuck the cars, the jewelry. All I need is one mic. One mic. Spread my voice to the whole world.
Shopify helps you sell at every stage of your business. Like that ready to launch stage, that open for business stage, that sell it everywhere until you sell.
Whoa. Froze on. Whoa, 23 shots like a Michael Jordan. Touchdown the pad like a Randall and get to the break, give a fuck what you niggas doing. Break on the beat, but feel it real way that I walk on the beat, ain't no better dude. Burger my bitch, change her address, cause during the show, better think before you try to do it. Bug down the play, that's an alley hoop. Switch it, it's good, now he got it, he count
I really need that.
on the beat, this shit factual. I put the gang on the map, now we national. If you want from my side, then I'm taxing you. My bitch, she back out a bottle like Betty Boo. Can't say her name, then my little woo. She hate when I be telling like guess she know the truth. Still a pop out like I'm bulletproof. AMG big Cartier hanging out the roof. Now on my side, now the 22. Step on the opposite product, designer shoes. Hoes on my dick, that what money do. I'm with your bitch trying to see what that honey do. Sent out for a low prayer, make it through. Phone ringing now, no, I don't wait to thank you. But to me, look like a snatch, hold a meeting in the back, ate the dick like a bill. After this, I can't chill or relax, gotta get to the back. Check my schedule, ice on my neck, whoa, 23 shot like a Michael Jordan. Choke slam the pet like a Randall and get to the break before what you niggas doing. Break on the beat, but feel it real way that I walk on the beat, ain't no better dude. Burger my bitch, change her address, cause during the show, better think before you try to do it.
Pretty deal when I walk in the function, I'm house, you nigga, don't think it ain't on me. In the club with these Glock in my undies, you make the wrong move, you get sent with your homies. When we in the club, they can tell we them niggas and getting us a whole lot of money. I counted this paper, this shit keep coming, you know that I'm thumbing and thumbing. Steady popping my shit on these niggas, I know that they hate it, I'm just being honest. Had to get out my ass to go give me a bag, bitch, I ran up a check with no honors. They bet a few dread out the feds, if they don't let them out, then we gon' kill your honor. Pull up on the scene and we black out the wood presidential like we was Obama. Gang.
Whoa, 23 shot like a Michael Jordan. Choke slam the pet like a Randall and get to the break before what you niggas doing. Break on the beat, but feel it real way that I walk on the beat, ain't no better dude. Burger my bitch, change her address, cause during the show, better think before you try to do it.
Take heat, fuck these niggas up.
So I used to go, let's go. Yeah. Big brother. Yeah. Let's go. Spool in my snake with that black no ride. Pull on the pen out snap.
Sound like a movie, I'm flipping through choppers. 17 months out of turn to a rapper.
He want to smoke now, I feel like counsel. She wants to feel give a fuck about the pound.
They brought it like toe tag, we whack. They buying new guns, we
Big from the Big Mac tap. Hunting two stick, can't count. Don't play one, I'm trying to relapse. About twice, nigga, that's relapse.
When I pen, now I walk with a limb. When I'm feeling the feeling, I'm taking it. That takes business, a robbery, better not move. Start stripping them naked, I'm shaking them down. I love perform with hoes on stage. I be picking bitches out the crowd. They on the blocks, no pro, over there, shoot the kids, get shot and stop.
I ain't got a lot of niggas married that man. Being with a sister, no curves. Still up, call him young nigga crazy. That curve, I get a lot short early. Early, yeah. Kiss me at it with the top like a serious. Yeah, my boy take a bath in the turd. I turd, I'm beating on my feet like a bird. Like a bird, in the bird with stuff back here. Still puppy young nigga, put the word. Please, I'ma get to it urge. This nigga, yeah, you know, I feel certain.
I ain't got no one out of my deal, nigga. Been getting cute, I'm just getting old. I'm still in the hood, I'm green bar post. Sitting up shop every day, we open. If you want to die, this shit, I promote it. You want to slime, the power was scoping. I got a plan, just gotta be cool. Give me some time, let me put it in motion. And you know they look up the slime as a dude. It ain't number one to me, you niggas bogus.
Yeah, it's bogus. Yeah, I'm no hotel, no cock. I'm thinking I'm hoes in a hotel. Hotel, dripping, I was like sitting there, like pop my shit. I'm a hotel, I'm top. Two cars, I'm still bad here with the rock. See, rock in the hood with them hood with the spotty. Scotty on top with the sound like Kyrie. Like Kyrie school, that's rich, I full rich. No rich. Gadget flow. I'm hit you in the eye like flow. Like flow. Drip, take a bitch overboard. Drip, splash. So ice. Yeah.
Yeah, I get your main bitch spinning like a windmill. So my ice, you walk by, you get a wind chill. Yeah, they call me big fool, you know I do a big drill. I ain't do a drive-by, bitch, I did stop still. Shout out the big walk, boy, I got a big deal. Yeah, I got the big drill, bitch, call me big spill. Boy, call me dangerous, young like a black pill. Boy, I killed the main op, know that that's a big kill. Caught the pussy nigga slipping, yeah, that was a free kill. Know I brought forward with a mud, had to break the seal. Disrespect the mob, and the hollow bullet, he can feel. On the corner, nigga, know I'm good, just like Bradley Bill. In the kitchen, beat the bow, just like Betty. If I said it, pussy boy, don't forget it. On direct, I never send you a message. I kill him and you bout to fit it. Pull up with a stick, nigga, know I got 100 rounds. Chopper here, make you break down, call you Bobby Brown. Double law, chopper gang, get him all hunt you down. We gon' dump his ass in the lake, ain't nobody's found. Ho! Small ass nigga. Y'all can't fuck with that home. Ho! Ho! Fool.
Are you tired of your YouTube channel not getting the attention it deserves? Building a YouTube channel can be a very lucrative and successful way.
Whoa. Whoa. Let's go.
Damn, I need a hemlock. Y'all didn't see a hemlock in the way? Well, go. Ask and doubt shall receive.
Expanding my salary, rich fitted church turned the show to a tragedy. My grandma been said I'm a masterpiece, put on they know these niggas can't handle me. I'm a king and they call me your majesty. Got a move smoking them folks trying to hassle me. I remember when my teachers doubted me, now I pop shit on the school and the faculty. Space cool with no roots, see the galaxy. I hit your bitch from the back on the balcony. AR-15 he shoot rapidly, trying to hit something, no, I'm not with the cavalry, nah. Nigga know I'm on top with the rabbit shit, trying to knock me at my spot, I ain't having it. Yeah, I used to be bro, now I'm having it. Drip every day and they feel like a mannequin. If I up, I'ma shoot, I ain't panicking. I chase the perk with the watch trying to balance it. I fucked her and a friend on some manic shit. If she found out, it's collateral damage. Pockets on fat like they gotta take, keep the bitch crew, we can handle it, man. Big bad and booty, she glamorous. Buy her own Gucci Chanel when she pampering. Nah, the rabbit shit wasn't my fantasy. Now I just cut on the beat and I damage it. Whoa, if I drop a bad and need vanish. In love with the money, I kinda romantic. Pockets on fat like they gotta take, keep the bitch crew, we can handle it, man. Big bad and booty, she glamorous. Buy her own Gucci Chanel when she pampering. Nah, the rabbit shit wasn't my fantasy. Now I just cut on the beat and I damage it. Whoa, if I drop a bad and need vanish. In love with the money, I kinda romantic. I see a op and I damage him. 762, he a pack like some cannabis. He a pack. Private jet when I'm landing it. I want my money right now, I'm demanding it. I was the one on the block that was handing it. My name was panicking, pressed like a mannequin. Pats in the cabinet, diamonds is candlelit. Candlelit switches, someone called an ambulance. Watching my drill like some cameras and drones. I walk out the house and I put that shit on. Smell the cologne, from the garçon. Paddock two-tone, it showed that I'm grown. I'm having cash, I don't need a loan. Look at my bitch, she back to the bone. Look at her bitch, she got skeleton bones. Before I was on her, I spent on my own. Back-to-back Lambos and Maybachs, I'm creeping. She see a star, want a picture, I freeze her. My bitch don't be fucking with that, she a diva. I know these thotty little bitches be evil. We send a shot like injecting the needle. Running up 100 racks trap like a speaker. She a bad bitch, got her own, she a keeper. Dope boy, 4G on the wriggle. Whole boy, you was on the field cheerleading. 5 million richer when I walk about a meeting. 5 on a richer, then it's going up immediate. Get it back, repeat it. Fuck it, then delete it. Put up in the guinea, man, I used to be a needy. Gotta get your money, but you never be greedy. Magic like a genie, I can beat it when I meet it. I'm heated. Let the chopper sing like a lid. Pockets on fat like they gotta take, keep the bitch crew, we can handle it, man. Big bad and booty, she glamorous. Buy her own Gucci Chanel when she pampering. Nah, the rabbit shit wasn't my fantasy. Now I just cut on the beat and I damage it. Whoa, if I drop a bad and need vanish.
Bro, that's crazy.
Pockets on fat like they gotta
That's
take,
crazy.
Big bad and booty, she glamorous. Buy her own Gucci Chanel when she pampering. Nah, the rabbit shit wasn't my fantasy. Now I just cut on the beat and I damage it. Whoa, if I drop a bad and need vanish. In love with the money, I kinda romantic.
She to my night to the first to the third. Middle o'clock trying to catch me a third. 2 weeks to turn, that shit for the birds. I'ma die by respect. You slime about yours. Chicago feet, I'm straight from the city. You want it, come get it. I got it in yours. Prometheus and just they on my nerves. I'm doing good, say fuck what you heard. Time on the clock, don't stop for no one. Standing on 10, 1-1, I'm on one. He think gon' pussy, make me have to show one. He ain't gon' shoot at that 40, his shotgun. I want them killers, make me have to sit on my road with them sinners. I know they'll take some. I want that hundreds and money since day one. Like when you play your soul, I take take one. Had it gon' wait on me. Noodles and crackers, straight from the street. Breaking their houses, flipping them couches. Can't find the money, we taking TVs. Ain't have a dime my wife, so go to night. The shit that the D-boy talking. I'm sipping water like coffee, no coffin. For a nigga play, get put in the coffin. I want that money, let's skip all the talking. Different them day, me and the club walking. Late night song, commotion, I'm calm. Won't stop till I'm up in the whole team bosses. Gambling, taking them losses. Spinning crosses, making me cautious. Trust all, I'm stepping with caution. Play with that K, I'm stepping, you drop. I'm out of pool, can't sit in my.
I love BetterHelp. Therapy has truly changed my life. I've been in and out of therapy with BetterHelp for a few years now, and it's made prioritizing my mental and emotional health so much easier.
And so that is why I recommend starting therapy with BetterHelp.
Starting us off, in our 10 on this list, we have this. Alright, I'm not sure what I'm looking at, but I think these are the real life pigeon men. If I saw this, if I was driving around at nighttime and I saw this, I'd be freaking out. I don't know if a robbery is about to go down. I don't know what's going on. Is this a protest? Are you protesting for pigeons? Okay, well, apparently this photo was actually found by a Reddit user, and it's from Japan. It's a pretty famous random Google Maps image, and kind of hilarious. I just have way too many questions on that one. I don't know why that became famous. What is the backstory? Alright, let's move right along. Number 9. This is a dumpster in Chile that appears to have mummified dead bodies dumped in it. I'm really hoping there is some sort of costume store nearby, or this picture was just taken after Halloween, but who knows. Next up on this list, just like that, number 8. So this image is from the Netherlands, and it appears that there is someone dragging a dead body to the edge to dump it. Is that the real life Dexter Morgan? Didn't Dexter dump his bodies in the water? And also, isn't there a new Dexter coming out? I'm super excited. Well, going back to this picture here, we actually found the coordinates on Google and searched it before this video, and there is now a new image without anyone on the pier. So this was definitely strange and scary. And Google's probably like, oh, we just captured like a live situation happening here. I think people looked into this picture, and I'm pretty sure it was just a wet dog, and what people are seeing as blood is just water. Well, at least that's what I'm hoping. Number 7. This image is from France. It has sparked a ton of questions on the internet about what on earth that creature is standing on the balcony. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Also, if you guys are liking this video, make sure to hit the like button because it really helps us out. It's prompted several paranormal and otherworldly folks to look further into it. But now, if you search that same location, the entire camera is blurry and nothing can be seen. Number 6. Hopefully CCTV helped save this woman. Well, hopefully she was found safe and alive after this image was captured. This might have been the moment she was kidnapped and thrown into a trunk of a car by 2 men. Alright, let's move on to number 5. Is this real life right now? I don't know what that is. Obviously, Google Maps messed up on this one. Technology isn't 100%. Unless Elon Musk made it, it's 100%. But I don't know what that is. Like an owl? Yeah, I think it just got split. Is that an owl? It is an owl? No. Oh, it isn't. It's definitely it. It's confirmed cat. Okay, so this one is less scary and more of a funny picture, just to lighten the mood a little bit. But it's pretty weird if you ask me. I'm hoping that this is just a glitch. A real-life glitch, or maybe just a simple glitch in the camera. Maybe this is a new discovery. Maybe this is a new species. What do we name it? Guys, what do we name it? Tell me in the comment section below. You guys are gonna put like half cat, half owl. You guys are gonna troll me hard. Oh my god, Landon thought that was an owl. Some of you guys did as well, alright? Oh yeah, I might be the only one. Next up, number 4. Well, we're looking at this picture. This is one of the most famous strange Google Maps Street View finds out there. And I have to hope that someone knew the cameras was hitting that area, and this is just a setup, just to be funny. There's a lot of pranks out there, a lot of funny business going on out there. Well, otherwise it means that this thing actually exists, and I don't like thinking about it at all. Can anyone confirm if this was found near Area 51? what do you guys think is in Area 51? What is President Donald Trump hiding in Area 51? Coming in number 3, well, we have this. We're looking at it right now. Well, this is a picture of Blood Lake. It was found on Google Maps, and the lakes surrounding it are normal colors. So why is this one such a deep blood red? I mean, do we want to know the answer to this one? Well, apparently it is believed that a slaughterhouse nearby has a runoff to this body of water. So they're just slaughtering animals, and that could be blood. Blood could just be draining into it. I really don't think that's very sanitary. Alright, number 2. I don't even know what to say about this one.
Hey, what's going on? What's going on? Thank you for dropping by.
With people dressed like this has to be a prank. Fousey 2, is that you? Boys, is that you guys? Were they filming a music video of some sort? I have so many questions. I bet the real story is hilarious. If you have any ideas on what on earth is happening here, let me know.
Oh shit, my bad, y'all. My bad.
That half cat, half owl picture. Let me know if it's actual owls. Finally on our list at number 1, we have this picture right here. Okay, this is so weird. This is pulled directly from Google Images. So this is in Kazakhstan, and researchers say this isn't satanic at all, and it's just an outline of the virus that is there. I'm gonna go ahead and say that is a lie. No way, this is just innocent.
At number 10, we have 36 degrees north, 117 degrees west, Death Valley, USA. One of the worst spots in America to get lost on a hiking trip. Now, thanks to air-conditioned cars and cell phones, most people won't meet their end in this wasteland. But back when pioneers had to cross this desert, it was one of the most challenging tasks imaginable. If you were caught out there without supplies, you would last less than a day. Either dehydration, sunstroke, or one of the many predators living out there would make you meet your end faster than a pizza pocket when I'm drunk. Death Valley has the highest recorded temperature on the planet, clocking in at 57 degrees Celsius.
You got that shit. Yeah, he's a funny one.
Is real there, except it won't be an egg. It will be your intestines.
They gotta be quicker than that.
Them out of your stomach. And if you manage to make it through the day into the night, the temperature will plummet.
Yeah, I ain't even peep that shit for real.
Minus 10 Celsius. As beautiful as the desert can be, I don't think I would want this to be my next vacation spot. If you're ever traveling through there, make sure you bring a ton of water and some blankets just in case your car breaks down. I don't know, it sucks. At number 9, we have 25 degrees south, 153 degrees east, Fraser's Island, Australia. Australia is a beautiful place. It's like hot Canada with more fighting and beer. Honestly, I've never been there. I'm just basing it off of movies and TV.
Nah, yeah, Apex fire.
You guys, I'm very sorry. But globally, Australia is housing some of the most dangerous creatures on the planet.
I don't know. I like the Apex lobbies better.
In Australia, it's basically a farm for several
the other lobbies be too racist.
To start it off, there are 2 types of jellyfish which are common to Fraser's Island. Urukanji and blue balls. Both of those jellyfish have stings so severe that they will send you to the hospital. And if the waters were dangerous enough, this is also a hotspot for young great white sharks. I'm assuming they go to these beaches for fighting practices. They want to get their reflexes nice and sharp before they chase down some surfers. So you might be saying to yourself, well, I'll just stay out of the water and I'll go explore the island. Well, there are packs of wild dingoes running around waiting to turn your tibia into a chew toy. Oh, and if you get attacked by any of these wild animals, there is zero medical services on the island. So you better hope you don't bleed out fast while the helicopter is zooming you to save your life. At number 8, we have 12 degrees north, 57 degrees east, Danakil Desert, Ethiopia. We're jumping back into the heat, and with winter just around the corner, this place makes me kind of jealous. I know the temperatures in deserts are high enough to kill someone, but I think it might be nicer than having to wait for a bus in the snow. Anyways, the Danakil Desert, also known as the Danakil Depression, is one of the hottest places on the planet, and because of its extreme heat, it's home to natural wonders. First, there is a decent amount of volcanic activity. This might be one of the only places on Earth where you walk into the desert to cool off. There's also mysterious salt pools. These are one of the largest tourist attractions in the area. Salt deposits build up on the sides of these pools, and the water is packed with sulfur. The salt has the aesthetic of a rimmed glass straight from nature's cocktail lounge. However, don't drink from one of these pools unless you want a slow, painful death. And I think we can agree we're all looking for swift and numb when it comes to dying. The pools are extremely poisonous. Even the air just above the pools is so packed with carbon dioxide that when small animals get too close, they will suffocate and die. And here's the cherry on top of the sundae. This place is nicknamed the Gateway to Hell. Wow, beautiful. At number 7, we have 37 degrees north, 59 degrees east,
Fukushima, Japan. For anyone who is unaware why
No
Fukushima
hands
is a
on this.
place you do not want to visit,
Oh, they
it is
glicking
home to
somewhere.
the second largest nuclear disaster ever.
I
In
ain't getting inside.
2011, a major earthquake hit Fukushima, damaging a power plant, causing the city to evacuate.
No.
Since then, no one has been allowed to return, and the situation has improved, but it is not looking great. In order to keep the
Oh, right there.
cool of this power plant that melted
There you
down,
go.
they're constantly pouring water on top of it. This water is then contaminated with radiation, obviously, and they must contain it so it doesn't spread. But they are running out of places to put this contaminated water. Also, the city is now overgrown with vegetation. With the absence of people, the forests have started to reclaim what was rightfully theirs. And with it has brought a little bit of wildlife. I talked about this in a previous video, but I wanted to mention it again because this is actually crazy. Radioactive wild boars have come into Fukushima and are thriving. For whatever reason, they do not seem to be afraid of radiation, and they are staking their claim on the land. This is how monster movies start. Next thing you know, we're gonna have giant mutant pigs swimming across the Pacific Ocean, coming here to eat the West. At number 6, we have 2 degrees south, 36 degrees east, Lake Natron, Tanzania. From a distance, this lake seems like a bronze wonder. The color and stillness looks like something pulled right out of a travel magazine. But this is the last lake you'd want to take a swim in. There is only 3 things that have managed to live in this lake. 1 species of fish, 1 type of flamingo, and some algae. Everything else that touches this water dies extremely fast. Why is that? Well, the pH in the lake can sit around 9 and sometimes stretch up to 10.5. The animals that call this place home have adapted to the harsh conditions. But let's say a bird unfamiliar with the area decides to take a dip. Their eyes and skin will be burned from the high pH levels, and the ending result will look like they've been hit with Medusa's gaze. At number 5, we have 44 degrees south, 71 degrees west, Mount Washington, Utah.
Do you want a satisfying, remote-friendly job that pays well? Become a software engineer in only 10 months through 10 boot camps. Beginners are welcome. You'll learn the full professional toolkit by building real business projects, including complete apps. Experienced software engineers will review your code line by line. Multiple externship opportunities mean you'll graduate with work experience and a portfolio. You'll learn how to get hired with resume
Man. Yeah, nah, I fucks with Fortnite.
one-on-one mock interviews.
USA.
Like every now and
A
again.
couple places in the excruciating heat, and now it's time to head into the bitter cold. Mount Washington.
I just
is
fuck with
crazy. It has temperatures that can
with like
reach
Warzone
40
and
below.
Apex better. But for the most part, like I play like fucking like RPG games like Final Fantasy and shit.
In the minus 40 weather. I'm sure they'll love that little tidbit of information while their nose peels off. And if the brutal cold wasn't enough to make you want to avoid this place, it also has the fastest winds ever recorded on a mountain. 238 miles per hour. That's over 300 kilometers per hour. That's stronger than a Category 5 hurricane. The wind is so strong it will give your face freezer burn right before it rips it off and sends it hurling down the mountain. At number 4 on the list, we have 24 degrees south, 46 degrees west, Snake Island, Brazil. I didn't make this place up. I know it sounds like something pulled out of a cheesy, low-budget 80s action movie, but it's real, and it has enough snakes living there to make the cast of The Real Housewives for decades. There is 1 snake for every square foot. I don't have a fear of snakes, but there's still no way I'm going to get close to this place, especially since almost every species on the island is extremely venomous. There's even rumors that snakes will swim off the island to boats that are too close and kill the people on board and then eat them. I even heard there's a symbiotic relationship with the birds on the island and the snakes on the island, where the birds will pick up the snakes and then drop them on people who are on the island so they get like an air attack and kill them. That one I made up. I just kind of wanted to hype up the story a little bit more. But your real biggest worry is about getting bitten and then having to ride in a boat back to the mainland to go see a doctor. It's a 90-kilometer trip, so you would probably be dead before you got anywhere close to any sort of medical attention. At number 3, we have 3 degrees north, 98 degrees east, Sinabung Volcano, Indonesia. I mean, who wouldn't want to live right next to an active volcano? It seems like a swell place to raise a family. But you guys are probably wondering, well, you can live next to an active volcano, but that doesn't mean it's going to blow up all the time. Well, between the years 2010 and 2016, Sinabung has popped off 5 times in 6 years. That is crazy. This place has blown up more times in 6 years than Conor McGregor has fought. And he is a professional fighter. Huh. I hope he doesn't fight me and kick my ass. I don't know, that could happen. I'm sure it's a beautiful place, but it would be hard to tell with all the constant lava flowing through it. This volcano is part of the Ring of Fire, which is a string of volcanoes lining up with tectonic plates that erupt more often than usual. So I'm not eager to check this place out, but you guys can go for me. At number 2, we have 25 degrees north, 70 degrees west, the Bermuda Triangle. Any kid growing up in the 90s heard about the Bermuda Triangle again and again. It was the plot point in every show from Scooby-Doo to Jackie Chan's Adventures. Yo, remember Jackie Chan had a cartoon and it was absolute fire? That cartoon was so good. Anyways, the Bermuda Triangle is a large chunk of the Atlantic situated between Florida, Bermuda, and Puerto Rico, and has been a hotspot for people disappearing. Planes, boats, rescue missions all have vanished without a trace, and it leaves people baffled as to what is going on. Some people think it's a hotspot for storms to kick up. Other people say there's magnetic forces that destroy navigation equipment. The crazier theories suggest that the Bermuda Triangle is a gateway for interdimensional travel, that aliens use this to fly across the universe in an instant. Even though there's a lot of disappearances from this area, many of them have been explained, but there's still a ton of cases that leave people wondering what's going on in this mysterious chunk of ocean. I don't know why I did that tongue thing at the end. And number 1 on our list is 40 degrees north, 58 degrees east, the Darbasa gas crater, Turkmenistan. Right off the bat, this place is nicknamed the Door to Hell. It has an even creepier nickname than that other hell place. Not the place you want to spend your honeymoon, unless you're both super metal, then it's probably like a great choice. Turkmenistan has a massive natural gas reserve, and that has been the fuel to the door to hell. It was back in 1971 when Turkmenistan was still part of the Soviet Union. There was construction underway, and a drilling operation caused a large amount of the earth to collapse in. And what started flowing out of it? A toxic gas. If it wasn't dealt with quickly, it would have poisoned the entire area. Good news though, the gas was flammable, so the Soviets figured, we'll just light it on fire, it'll burn for a little while, and then we'll get back to work, comrade. Well, it did catch on fire, and then it did burn, but it never stopped. It has been burning since 1971, and has no sign of going out anytime soon. And if a giant pit of fire wasn't enough to keep you away, Turkmenistan is run by a dictator. Have a nice vacation.
Starting off this countdown, we have Amchitka Island. Located in Alaska, sections of this island are blurred out on Google Maps, and no one really knows why this is. But it may have to do with the nuclear testing that once took place there. From the 1950s to the 1970s, Amchitka Island was the site of U.S. underground nuclear testing. Nowadays, they are running tests to see if the island has any radioactive leakage there. If there isn't, then in 2025, it could become a wildlife preserve. But again, why is half of the island blurred out? Maybe that's the section where the nuclear testing took place. But why is it still blurred? A lot of people think that the military is doing some suspicious illegal activities there, and that's why. But what do you think? Let me know in the comments below. In our next spot, we have 2207 Seymour Avenue. And if you guys are liking this video so far, then make sure to give it a big thumbs up. 2207 Seymour Avenue, located in Cleveland, Ohio, is a home where a horrific crime took place. From 2002 to 2004, Ariel Castro kidnapped 3 young women: Michelle Knight, Amanda Berry, and Georgina De Jesus. He kept them captive in his home until 2013, when Amanda Berry escaped with her daughter and contacted the police. The police came to his house and rescued the other women. Castro was arrested within hours. He was sentenced to life plus 1,000 years in prison without parole. Due to the disturbing crimes that took place at his home, Google Maps decided to blur his house. In fact, the house has been named the House of Horrors. But a couple years back, his house was demolished to help the victims move on from their traumatizing past. Coming in at number 8, we have the French nuclear facility. The Arriva-La Hague nuclear fuel reprocessing facility in France is another place that is blurred out on Google Maps. This facility opened in 1976 and is responsible for treating nuclear fuel from several countries. Here's the thing though, this facility hasn't always been blurred out. By using the Google Earth History tab, you can see old Google Earth images of this facility. So now, why all of a sudden is it blurred out? What is going on there? Well, it may have something to do with the controversy it has received and the backlash it received from Greenpeace. Since 1997, Greenpeace has been trying to shut it down, saying that they dump 1 million liters of liquid radioactive waste per day in the ocean. That is severely messed up if that's true. Maybe that's why it's blurred out, so that people don't see what they're really up to with their nuclear waste. Moving on to number 7, we have the French prison. There are a number of prisons that are blurred out on Google Earth, including the Beaumet prison in Marseille. Now, why do they prisons? Well, a couple of reasons. One, for privacy. But the main reason is so that criminals don't know the layout of the prison. Basically, this prison wasn't always blurred. Following a successful jailbreak, France's Minister of Justice was like, why are there aerial images of this prison available online? And then that led to the prison getting blurred. But of course, you could still find older images of the prison on Google Maps that show what it looks like and its layout. In our sixth spot, we have the Antarctic Ice Shield. This is another pretty strange place to get blurred. But basically, halfway between Australia and Madagascar, there is a 22-kilometer long blur in the middle of the Antarctic Ice Shield. I mean, this place is one of the most isolated places on Earth. There's nothing but ice and penguins.
EVE Online is a vast universe, alive with the unrelenting activity and combined history of its players. Pursuing lives of adventure, warfare, and prosperity, they share this existence in the biggest single shard, free-to-play MMO of all time.
I might give that EVE Online shit a try.
Set 21,000 years.
There. So why is it being blurred out? We don't know for sure, but people think that there is something hidden there that we're not allowed to see. Although it's thought to be owned by Australia, theory goes that Russia or the US have built a research facility there. The only way we'll know for sure is by visiting the place itself. So who's coming with me for this field trip? It'll be a lot of fun. Come on, just pack a snowsuit and lots of hot packs. We're now at our fifth and halfway mark with Moroa Island. Located in French Polynesia, this island was first used for nuclear testing in 1966 by France. These tests apparently took place until 1996. That's when the French president shut down the facility. Why? Well, Greenpeace found out that these tests were polluting the water as far as Peru and New Zealand. In fact, many locals in Tahiti have claimed they have been affected by the radiation from the tests. Nowadays, the island is off-limit to visitors and is guarded by French forces, which is probably why half of the island is blurred on Google Maps. Or maybe it's because they're still doing these nuclear tests. We may never know. Moving on at number 4, we have Elmira Correctional Facility. Elmira Correctional Facility, also known as The Hills, is a maximum security state prison in New York. This is another facility blurred on Google Earth. Why? Well, a number of reasons. 1, they have fears of an aerial attack. Number 2, they have fears that someone will use this information to plan an escape. And number 3, the prison is highly secure. Why would they want images of the building online for everyone to see? But it turns out that this location got blurred after a number of riots and mass escapes. Moving on to number 3, we have North Korea. Okay, is it even shocking that North Korea has sections of its country blurred? I mean, they're so secretive, so this isn't a surprise at all. Now, the area that is blurred is along the country's western shore. So people have thought that they are hiding something there. Maybe a secret military project. Who knows? I mean, hey, the country is hiding so many things. Like I said, this one doesn't really come as a surprise. In our second spot, we have Paseo de los Naranjos. Located in Spain, this place translates to Orange Tree Yard, and it is completely censored on Google Maps. No matter how close you try to zoom in on the map or the area close by, you won't be able to see anything. Why? Well, there's a lot of government buildings located there. So it's blurred out for security and privacy reasons, which makes sense. Many government or military buildings are blurred out on Google Maps for similar reasons. And in our number 1 spot today, we have Jeanette Island. Located in Russia, this island is said to contain a secret Russian military base. If you type this island into Google, you'll find a whole lot of nothing. Legit, it just looks like a bunch of water. It's not even registered on Google Maps as an island. When you type in its coordinates, you will see a message that says this island is unavailable. Now, before it was removed from the maps altogether, it wasn't even blurred out. It was actually blacked out. Like there was a full-on black mass just covering it. But when you zoomed in, you could see this icy mass, and that's all. According to Reddit user Exoplanetary Science, he said, and I quote, "Google rarely blacks out without reason. A search through Google Earth shows that this has been permanently blurred out, even in images dating back to the 1980s. I'm going going to guess, there's a concealed Russian military base located there, and possibly quite a substantial one. So, there you have it, folks. Secret Russian military base. Starting us off at number 10, Sandy Island. Also known as the Phantom Island, this peculiar location was first discovered by the famous British explorer Captain James Cook in 1774. Now, what's crazy about Sandy Island is that it was documented on maps, globes, and even nautical charts for 238 years. But now if you go to Google Maps, you will see no such island. The reason being is that in 1979, it was quite literally undiscovered, as apparently no landmass existed there. But even so, it remained on Google Maps until 2012. This seemingly conflicting information made many wonder if there is something that we aren't being told about the strange island, or not. And so naturally, a conspiracy theory began, stating that this undiscovered island actually was there and that they are being lied to. Now, I'm not about to jump quite to that conclusion. However, I will admit that it isn't every day that something becomes undiscovered. So it does make sense to wonder if there is something going on behind the scenes. However, I guess we will never know for sure. Next up at number 9, Blurred House. So, I'll be honest, I'm not entirely sure if this qualifies as terrifying in the usual sense. However, it is certainly mysterious, and so I couldn't help myself from adding it to today's list. Located in Stockton-on-Tees, England, there is an inexplicable blurring of a random house that has perplexed neighbors, tourists, and even the residents themselves since 2009. Of course, when things like this happen, people like to make their own conclusions, and so rumors involving crime or aliens began spreading about the property. But in reality, the truth was much more unnerving, that no one could actually explain or figure out why it was banned for public viewing. In fact, according to the current resident, quote, "I've been in this house since 2000, but I have no idea why you can't see it." Which would mean at one point you could see it, and then 9 years later it was suddenly not suitable for the public to have access to. So, is there something spooky about this house that Google doesn't want us to know? Certainly seems that way. Coming in at number 8, Baker Lake. Up in a remote location of Nunavut, Canada, there is a seemingly innocuous place called Baker Lake that, for some mysterious reason, is not fully visible on Google Maps. In fact, if you do a quick search, there is actually a long black strip that covers a good chunk of the area. And as I'm sure you can imagine, it has garnered a terrifying conspiracy theory to explain why that is. The theory states that this black strip is actually covering extraterrestrial beacons that the government secretly brought down to Earth in 1972. The theory then goes on to explain that these top-secret beacons exert powerful electromagnetic fields that disrupt Earth's natural energy grids, which in turn have altered the weather and have been used to focus the Earth's energy in undisclosed ways. Further, there are some out there who propose that because these alleged beacons are stolen space property, it has caused a massive war with aliens, hence the uprising in alleged UFO sightings. Now, in reality, we have no concrete evidence as to why this is blurred out, but whatever it is, it must be for a good reason. Next up at number 7, Jeannette Island. Located somewhere in the East Siberian Sea, this mysterious tiny island measures just 1.2 miles in length, and according to the powers that be, we are not supposed to know about it. First discovered in the late 19th century during the Jeannette expedition, this icy landmass and the ominous Google Maps blob that covers it have been the subject of numerous conspiracies, ranging from the usual alien stuff to it being a top-secret government base for secret or evil deals amongst world leaders. Now, one thing we do know about this place is that there have been some issues over the years about who the island legally belonged to, with the US and Russia often butting heads over ownership. This has, of course, lended its hand to the evil political military base narrative, but for all we know, the truth could be even more terrifying. Coming in at number 6, former Sansi UFO houses. When construction on these peculiar houses began in 1978, they were marketed to be vacation resorts for U.S. military officers coming from their East Asian postings. But as you might have noticed, they have an extremely futuristic look to them, hence why they got the nickname UFO houses. However, the bubbly pod-like architecture wasn't the only strange thing about these houses. A mere 2 years after construction began, the project was abandoned and never finished due to several car accidents and a number of construction workers who took their own lives on the job. This, of course, caused a huge loss on the investment, and they were forced to end the project. The plan from there was to tear down all the buildings despite a major public pushback, and eventually in 2010, all the UFO houses were demolished. But of course, this still didn't answer the mystery on everyone's mind. What was behind all this tragedy, and why were they so hell-bent on destroying the buildings? Well, there are a few theories. Some believe that the site was the formal burial ground for Dutch soldiers and that the workers had been cursed during construction, while another theory claims that the tragedies were due to the bisecting of the Chinese dragon sculpture located near the resort gates. And, of course, the shape of the buildings drew in conspiracy theorists who claim aliens were the reason for death and that they could have threatened the company to tear it down. So, considering the buildings no longer exist,
I just bought a mobile. Well, I just took a mobile respawn beacon from right here.
Coming in at number 5, Boz Island. Way back in the 1920s, the Red Army began searching for a discreet place to build a military complex for inventing, producing, and testing biological weapons. They wanted something small and far away from the Soviet borders so as not to draw attention. And eventually, by 1948, such a place was found. Almost immediately, a top-secret Soviet lab began testing agents such as smallpox, anthrax, and plague, among others. However, what they didn't see coming was that the island, once split between Uzbekistan and Kazakhstan, would begin to grow in size once the Aral Sea began drying up in the 1960s. Then fast forward to 1971, and a weaponized smallpox was accidentally released from the lab, infecting 10 people, 3 of whom lost their life. And by the 1990s, the secrecy of the lab got compromised. All island inhabitants were evacuated, leaving the base completely abandoned by 1991. However, in their haste to leave, many of the containers were not properly destroyed or sealed. And so over time, these containers began to leak, contaminating the grounds for decades. Now, the good news is that by 2002, a lot of the sites were decontaminated, but many areas remain contaminated, and it's still one of the most feared and deadly places in the world. Coming in at number 4, underwater.
Some washers use belt systems that make noisy vibrations.
Is it supposed to shape like that?
But not this LG top-load washer. It's got a direct drive motor that minimizes vibrations. Now that's good.
Water pyramids. Located in the Bahamas, this photo found in Google Maps has left many thinking that they discovered underwater pyramids. Now, I know, this is a full conspiracy theory, but I mean, what else do you expect to find when Google Maps has blurred out seemingly normal places across the globe? The main conspiracy surrounding these alleged underwater pyramids is that they are living proof of the long-lost city of Atlantis, or at the very least, proof of some ancient Aztec civilization. But of course, there are others out there who claim these underwater pyramids all have to do with aliens. The mysterious structure is estimated to measure between 3.5 to 11 miles across, based on the photos, although no one knows for sure, as you can't get to the structure to see for yourself. If it is in fact a pyramid, and the size that many believe it to be, it would be the biggest pyramid ever built. But seeing as though no one can visit them, it might be a long while before we know if these pyramids prove any kind of extraterrestrial involvement on Earth. Coming in at number 3, Amchitka Island. Once home to the Aleut people for over 2,500 years, Amchitka Island has had no permanent population since 1832. In 1836, when the United States purchased Alaska, they gained control of the territory, and it's likely that this purchase had a lot to do with the declining population. However, that's that's not why it's blurred from the public view. Beginning in the 50s and up until the 70s, Amchitka was used by the U.S. Atomic Energy Commission as a site for underground nuclear detonations. And during these 20 or so years, this island became known as the location of one of the largest underground tests ever conducted in U.S. history. At the time, quite a bit of controversy followed what was going on at the island, mostly due to the fear that the tests could cause several environmental impacts and desolate the land, which, frankly, they were not wrong about. While not entirely confirmed, it is the general belief that the controversial nuclear past of this island is the reason behind the ominous blur, as it's not somewhere Google is quick to advertise as a place to visit. Coming in at number 2, GROM headquarters. If you have ever Googled Warsaw, Poland, you may or may not have come across a strange group of buildings that look like mysterious blobs compared to the rest of the city around it. Well, as it turns out, this is no accident. Those buildings are GROM headquarters, which is essentially Poland's Special Forces building. Now, I'll be honest, there is not much you can find about these headquarters.
I broke his seal.
All I can find out about this top secret group is that they rescued CIA agents from a mission gone wrong in Desert Storm back in 1991. And apparently, whatever else it is they are up to, they do not want you to know about. Which, I mean, I guess is kind of the point. So as much as I'm sure many of us would like to know what goes on in this super secret Polish spy headquarters, I'm afraid that information is highly classified and their exact location will continue to remain a secret.
Oh, what the fuck?
And last up in our number 1 spot, 2207 Seymour Avenue. Once the home of the Beyond
Damn, they all came on.
there is no conspiracy that comes with why this house is blurred on Google Maps. Only a truly terrifying reality. The horrors in this house began in the mid-90s when Ariel was married to a woman named Grimilda Figuera. Ariel was extremely abusive towards his wife, but despite
came out of nowhere
and causing an eventual terminal brain tumor from his actions, the domestic violence arrest did not result in an indictment. By the late 90s, things began to get even scarier for Grimilda, and so she moved out, took their offspring, and filed for full custody. But again, no charges were pressed against him. However, his abusive backstory with his wife is not the reason for the infamous reason you can't see this house. It's because shortly after their divorce, between the years of 2002 to 2004, Ariel kidnapped 3 young women and held them captive in this house until 2013. His victims, Amanda Berry, Michelle Knight, and Gina DeJesus, were starved, beaten, and endured unspeakable psychological and physical acts at this monster's hands until finally in 2013 when Amanda noticed a door was left unlocked and saw a neighbor walking down the street. Amanda screamed for help and the neighbor ran to the house, broke through the door, allowing Amanda to make a valiant escape with her 6-year-old daughter. She promptly called 911 and authorities arrived in minutes, saving the other 2 victims. The case made international headlines and Ariel Castro was rightfully sentenced to life in prison plus 1,000 years without possibility of parole. As part of the plea bargain, the house was actually demolished, but still the story was so evil that it remains blurred on Google Maps forever. Starting off this list in our number 10 spot, we have the Star. While searching through images, someone stumbled upon an isolated corner of Kazakhstan, and here they found a large pentagram etched into the ground, which of course may have set off some alarm bells. That 5-point star is surrounded by a circle and is very clearly visible, and of course, once the image began circling the internet, people were coming up with only the most wild theories and explanations. In the end, it turned out to be the exact opposite of something sinister. It's actually the outline of a park that was made into the shape of a star. The star is so clearly marked because of the roadways, and where there's no road, there's a lot of trees, which makes the symbol stand out even more. It's like the best possible outcome for this one, honestly. A beautiful tree-lined park in the shape of a star. How lovely. In our number 9 spot today, we have the bunker. If you were to take a nice little stroll through the deserts of New Mexico, at some point you'd see something etched into the ground. They appear to be 2 large diamonds that are surrounded by a pair of overlapping circles. Okay, likely not a naturally occurring situation, so what could it be? Maybe an ancient geoglyph.
Maybe some sort of cool secret Area 51 style place. No, of course it's just allegedly the site of some hidden bunker that belongs to the Church of Scientology. Apparently this cult uses these symbols to guide Scientologists who are returning to Earth after fleeing a planet's Armageddon. Okay. Sure, there are other examples of strange and hidden places that somehow link back to this cult, so it really has me wondering just how many properties and areas that they have and what they're up to. Maybe that explanation really is the truth behind these symbols, but what if it's not? Despite how controversial this cult is, they've managed to grow quite widespread, and they've gained some quite well-known people over the years, like Tom Cruise and John Travolta. So random. And at number 8 spot today, we have the Cauldron. Google Earth can basically take you anywhere except for the areas they of course have blocked off for a variety of reasons. And when I say basically anywhere, sometimes I mean even the most absurd places, including right to the edge of a boiling cauldron of lava. That's right, you can head right to the edge of the volcano that is located on an island in the Vanuatu chain in the South Pacific. It is cool because it's likely the closest I'll ever get to seeing this kind of view in real life, but it's also terrifying to look into that cavern that's filled with bright, hot magma. Like, even just looking at this photo, you can almost feel the heat and the panic of being at the mouth of a volcano. Very cool, but also very scary. In our number 7 spot today, we have the Nevada Triangle. This image from Google Maps captures a spooky symbol that is lurking in the deserts of Nevada. I think conspiracy theorists have forever ruined triangles just in general, but this large one with all the circles inside, coupled with the minimal answers on what it is, definitely makes for a bit of an eerie sight. Right now, the most popular theory as to what this could be is a bombing target. Apparently close by is an Air Force base, so that theory truly would make quite a bit of sense. It could also be some sort of abandoned airstrip perhaps, but of course with any mystery on the internet, there are more very wild theories out there. Of course, there's the obligatory "it's aliens" theory, along with some sort of Illuminati idea, but it wouldn't be the internet without it. In our number 6 spot today, we have the fire. As the satellites and little cars go by that document the imagery used on Google Maps, they can't exactly predict or control who or what is going to be happening in the area captured. Sometimes it might capture someone who will eventually be blurred out on their front lawn. Sometimes it captures accidents, and in this case, it captured an absolutely raging field fire in Arkansas. It would already be terrifying from the ground, but seeing it from this vantage point really shows how large and powerful it is. Someone on Reddit made a good point, saying that it appears as though there are people on the south side, which likely means that the fire is contained and controlled, thankfully, but that doesn't really make it any less cool or interesting to see. In our number 5 spot today, we have the Valley of Dolls. Google Maps, especially the street view, is such a great way to look around a place and kind of get your bearings before you even get there. I mean, I remember almost 8 years ago now, before I moved to Toronto, I spent hours digitally walking around the streets, seeing my home, where I was going to go to school, all that jazz. It was super exciting, but sometimes you walk around a city so unlike your own that it absolutely shocks you, and that is likely what would happen if you were to just stumble upon the town or village of Nagoro in Japan, which is known as the Valley of Dolls. A woman named Ayano Tsukimi grew up in the village and remembers a time when it was full of families and other children just like her, but during her years in secondary school, she and her family moved to Osaka. Ayano continued to grow up, she married and had her own kids, all the while her parents ended up moving back to the town. After her mother passed away, she also moved back to the village in order to help care for her father, and this is when she realized that the population of the town had dropped drastically since her time here as a child. While living here and trying to keep her garden free of crows, she made a scarecrow that resembled her father, and she placed it outside. When she realized that those living in the village began to mistake the scarecrow for her father, she had an idea to commemorate those in the village who had passed away with a scarecrow, and boom, $350 later, the town became an attraction for travelers and journalists. It's a bit eerie to peer through on Google Maps, but when the full story is revealed, it gets way less sinister and actually kind of sweet. In our number 4 spot today, we have the Costa Concordia. The Costa Concordia was a huge ship with 17 decks, 6 restaurants, and a 3-story theater. The ship was big enough to hold a whopping 4,200 passengers, so there were a lot of people on this boat on January 13th, 2012. On that day, the boat's captain wanted to sail a little closer to the island of Isla del Giglio than he normally would so that he could impress and salute the residents. He turned off the ship's alarm for the computer navigation system, which turned out to be just as terrible of an idea as you would think it is. He thought he knew the waters well enough to navigate by sight, but when the ship struck an underwater rock, things took a deadly turn. The ship capsized and sank, which unfortunately ended up taking the lives of some of the passengers on board. The captain, who was responsible for the accident in the first place, made one more awful mistake when he abandoned ship while passengers were still stuck on board. The recovery for the ship was the largest of its kind, as the huge ship had been entirely dismantled. You might be wondering why on earth I've just told you an entire shipwreck story, and that is because both the wreck as well as the subsequent rescue efforts were visible on Google Earth for quite some time. The satellite imagery probably isn't even as near as terrifying as it must have been to be close during those terrifying days, but it does give us an idea of the size of this disaster. In our number 3 spot today, we have the crater. Space is very cool, but
Yeah.
for every cool and interesting thing I
Go on your side. No, stay on your side.
I also learned one equally or even more terrifying thing about it as well. It's a very scary place, and we truly have no control over the powers of it, which is exactly why this startling image found on Google Earth is an unsettling one. Somewhere in northern Arizona, there is a mark that is like an Earth scar, and it serves as a reminder of a 50,000-year-old meteor strike. When I call it a mark or a scar, I am greatly understating it, as this thing is a huge crater known as the Barringer crater. It's the result of a 150-foot slab of nickel iron that smashed into the Earth with the exploding force of 2.5 million tons of TNT. Yeah, this sure makes me glad I wasn't around 50,000 years ago. This natural disaster caused this natural landmark that serves as our reminder of just how small we really are. In our number 2 spot today, we have the scene. This is an image that went viral with people saying that if you type in these certain coordinates, that you will see what people think is a man dragging a body down a dock and leaving a bloody trail behind. That would be gruesome, wouldn't it? When looking at the image, it does seem compelling, and that is pretty much what it looks like, although it's definitely still a little unclear. In fact, it was so compelling that Snopes actually did an article on it. The dock is located in the Netherlands, and according to their research into it, Snopes claims that the photo is just a few people walking, and they are likely accompanied by a sort of brown
Ronnie,
dog
go on your
who
side.
may have just jumped into the water and then left some
Go.
watermarks. That's the reasoning for the red-stained wood. That is definitely a less sinister explanation, and it's the one I'm hoping is true. In our number 1 spot today, we have the pond. Davy Lee Niles was 72 years old in 2006 when he disappeared. Sadly, for almost a decade, the case went cold as no one could find him or his car or even figure out what might have happened to him. That was until someone was decorating a Christmas tree in 2015 and was high up on a lift, and they spotted something deep within a pond nearby. That something they spotted turned out to be something that had also been visible on Google Maps for years, and in the end, it was the car that belonged to Davy. And when the authorities went to recover it, they were able to find his body inside. The car wasn't visible before because at ground level, it's just too murky. While the satellite image taken from Google Maps makes it quite clear that there is something there, not too many people are taking a virtual tour around this body of water. Thankfully, that person in 2015 wasn't only aware of their surroundings, but they said something when they saw something, and it was able to lead to closure for the family of Davy. Starting off at our number 10 spot, we have the pigeon people. Japan is the home to many wonderful things, and that includes the wacky, bizarre pigeon people of Google Earth. Yes, you heard me correctly. What looks absolutely terrifying on the surface is thankfully most likely just a strange prank, but basically it saw a group all wearing pigeon heads lined up on the sidewalk ready for the Google camera as it went by. It's definitely a strange sight to begin with, but it's made even weirder by the turn of their heads in order to follow the camera. Honestly, really unsettling when you first look at it. I mean, pigeons are already weird creatures, so this little prank definitely has a bit of an eerie feeling to it, but the good news is that it's likely just a fun group of students from the art school that is nearby to this weird scene found on Google Maps. In our number 9 spot today, we have the invitation. This weird Google Maps image comes to us from Memphis, Tennessee. And while I've never been, I've heard wonderful, wonderful things. That is all except for this weird message that was found as someone was searching through Google Maps, and it's located on the top of the building. Someone wrote this message, and it's got to be pretty large considering it was so easy to read, even from this distance, but the message says, "Come downtown and play." I don't know what kind of Pennywise is out there writing these kinds of messages, but I know I'm not crazy, and there's something almost sinister feeling about it. It is likely some sort of marketing tactic or something of that nature. I mean, at least I hope it is, but from a distance, when it looks like it could be something that was spray painted by a random person. It just seems weird, you know? I just know I probably won't be RSVPing to this invite anytime soon. Thanks, but no thanks. In our number 8 spot today, we have the disposal. Mannequins are always creepy. I don't care. They just are. My old roommate was a hairdresser, and when she was in school, sometimes I'd go to get a glass of water in the middle of the night and be absolutely
Vonnie,
startled.
go sit on your side, please. Well,
And
I don't know, but I'm gonna deck you. I'm gonna point you in your little baby head. You get to fight me here. Nigga.
Well, you can imagine people got a lot of the same sort of feeling
But
when they
you
were on
gonna
Google
send me
Maps
bye
and
bye
saw
then?
the sight of all of these discarded mannequins that truly for a second looks like it's a pile of bodies sitting in the trash.
No. Leave that.
This site was seen on Google Maps in Chile, and it
That
definitely
is
weirded
diddle.
people out. I wonder what these mannequins were
Go
used
for
for.
a
I
deck.
mean, there's a ton of them, so it must have been used for some sort of clothing shop.
No.
or a
Get out.
seamstress or
Go on your
something.
side.
Right? Maybe it's just wishful thinking, but that's what I'm choosing to believe. In our number 7
Being
spot
an
today, we have
asshole,
friendship. This is one Google Maps sighting that doesn't have a lot of information behind it, which definitely makes it all the more eerie. Basically, this is just an image of a group of friends standing together in the desert. Maybe a little strange, but not so weird. Right? Well, yeah, except for the weird masks they're wearing and the fact that they're all staring directly at the camera. I'm sure the story behind this one is that
Oh,
these
Mark
friends
ass
saw the
Buster.
Google Maps car coming and
Oh, there's a whole
decided to play
squad.
along.
These niggas
Right?
hopped out like
Similar
the
to
Koski.
pigeon
Oh
people, but I mean,
shit.
no one has been
Why
able
they
to
jump over that
confirm
rock
this, and
like that?
who
You gonna
knows
kick me in
if
my
there
face
are
like that,
answers on
OC?
it. I mean, I guess the mission
Alright.
these people set out on was likely accomplished because here we are talking about this creepy prank. In our number 6 spot today, we have the SS Yasim wreck. The SS Yasim was a Bolivian cargo ship that sank on the evening of December 1st, 2003. For a while, no one was quite sure as to why it sank, as well as the fact that no one could find the wreck. This was honestly very strange just in general, but also especially because of the fact that the ship was quite large at 265 feet. This is exactly why it was so surprising when, a few years ago, the Google Maps team located the sunken vessel based on their satellite imagery. The ship was found on its side, perhaps in the same location it initially sank, in Wingate.
Oh, you got
just
more
off of
sweet
the
shit out of her,
coast.
didn't
The
you?
mystery as to why the wreck was never found was realized because of the location of it. The wreck is close to an island where an uncontacted tribe lives. Of course, for the safety of both the tribe as well as outsiders who might not be welcome, people thankfully tend to leave the island alone, but this is exactly why the wreck wasn't found for so
How you
long.
gonna tell
This
me
wreck
not to give him
became
shit and
one
you
of
just
the
gave him another
largest
donut?
visible on Google Earth until quite recently. In our number 5 spot today, we have
What?
the desert structure. This is one discovery that I talked about recently, and it's one that had conspiracy theorists' minds absolutely swirling. About a decade ago, someone was searching through some Google Maps images when they found a mysterious array of structures and patterns that appeared to be etched into the surface of the Gobi Desert, which is located in China. The structures, as they are referred to, are kind of similar to geoglyphs, but these ones look modern and newly created, and rather than actually being carved into the ground, they're made of something. The internet, of course, came up with some pretty insane speculations of what these structures could be, or what they might be used for, and the idea stretched from spy satellite calibration to some sort of Illuminati-affiliated product, so who really knows at this point? In our number 4 spot today, we have the perpetrators. Okay, so this picture is definitely not really terrifying itself, but the story behind it certainly is. So basically, in 2011, a woman who lives in Oklahoma City was unfortunately the victim of a terrible crime. She was held at gunpoint by one man while another raided her home. I can't even imagine. That must have been so terrible and terrifying. So imagine her surprise one day when a friend of hers was on Google Maps in her neighborhood, and who does she see other than the 2 people who committed this crime against her? They were seen on a street camera hanging out apparently near her home. She of course called the police and turned the images over to them, and it is said that they are using them in the investigation. It is unclear if they were ever able to catch the perpetrators or not, but hopefully this image proved to be useful. In our number 3 spot today, we have the escape artist. Listen, not everything appears as it is on the surface, but this one at best is definitely fishy. Basically, it appears as if the Google Maps camera may have caught someone as they escape prison. This photo comes from Michigan, and it was taken by Google in front of the Lenawee County Jail. Basically, in the image, you see a guy walking in a white jumpsuit with black stripes, carrying a bag on his shoulder, with a jail visible in the background. When someone initially saw this on Google Maps, they of course screenshotted it and posted it to Reddit, asking people if Google caught someone as they were escaping. Honestly, we aren't exactly sure, but it is entirely possible that this inmate was just a trusted one who was on some kind of work duty where they were doing some work outside of the fence. Perhaps whoever was supervising just wasn't in the view of the Google car. Either that, guys, the most calmest baby I've ever seen. In our number 2 spot today, we have Caught Red-Handed. In 2008, a young man in Holland was biking home when 2 men ended up ambushing him, and they stole his bike, phone, and the cash he had on him. First, authorities were having trouble finding who the 2 men were that did this to him because of a lack of evidence, but just 6 months later, there was a break in the case. The boy was looking at the street view of where the incident happened, and as he explored just a little bit, he found that the Google Maps car camera had captured the moments just prior to this terrible incident. That means that the camera captured the faces of those who had stolen his belongings. He ended up calling the police, who then called Google and asked for the unblurred versions of the photos. When Google delivered them, the police realized that they were able to directly identify the pair in the photo, who were a pair of 24-year-old brothers. Who knew that Google Maps could help bring people to justice? In our number 1 spot today, we have the cold case. This is one thing that was discovered on Google Maps, but it's really similar to a story that I covered in part 1 of this series. Basically, in 2007, someone was on Google Maps when they spotted something in a body of water that appeared to them to be a car. It turns out that they were right, and they helped the authorities solve an over 20-year-old cold case. Apparently, a man named William Moult was reported missing from Florida on November 7th, 1997. He never returned home after a night out, and police had been searching for him ever since. Once that person in 2007 brought what they found to the police, they were able to investigate, and they found the missing vehicle. Inside was a body that they were finally able to identify as the missing William. It truly is a very tragic story, but at least he was finally found so that he can be returned to his loved ones, and they can have some closure to the story.
Coming in at number 5, we have Goldfield, Arizona. Being deemed as one of Arizona's most haunted places, we have the town of Goldfield. Founded in 1893, Goldfield was a promising land for gold mining. The town grew rapidly, gaining 1,500 residents during its first year. The space was quick to build businesses including stores, a blacksmith, a butcher, a brewery, and 3 saloons. Though the town of Goldfield met its fall just as quickly as it was built up. After 5 short years, the gold ran out and people began to dwindle, eventually leaving it fully abandoned, securing its ghost town status. Being classified as a ghost town doesn't necessarily mean a place is haunted by ghosts, but this is not the case for the Goldfield Ghost Town. There's plenty of documentation and investigations that point to Goldfield being a paranormal active ground. It is known that a mysterious figure lurks within the shadows of the Goldfield Ghost Town, Bordello. It is unclear who this spirit would have been in life, yet it is commonly believed he was once a miner who lived in the town. Unexplainable knocks and bangs are heard in the building, and some unfortunate visitors have been scratched. This activity is attributed to a dark character who is usually seen wearing a cowboy hat. Just on the horizon of the Goldfield Ghost Town sits a landscape made ominous by its name and the legend surrounding it. The Superstition Mountains are cloaked in mystery and at the center of many fables, making them notorious among the paranormal community. The Superstition Mountains carry many secrets, the most famous being the location of a supposed deposit of gold and riches in the Lost Dutchman's gold mine. A curse has kept this treasure safe since the days of Goldfield's mining boom. Many have set out to locate these riches, and many have returned empty-handed or found only death. Countless adventurers have perished in the Arizona heat pursuing this chase. Their ghosts are said to now haunt the mountainside. Other secrets of the mountain have people believing that the hill is a place where evil spirits hid and told stories of the devil that lived behind the mountain. There's also a rumored apparition of a hugely tall skeleton named the Borrego Phantom, which appears to those exploring the mountain after dark. Another layer of creepiness is added to the mountain by the local legend that reptile-looking people surface there after dark. All of these creepy mysteries are summed up pretty nicely in the Superstition Mountain's name. In at number 4, we have Glen Rio, New Mexico. Found on the state border of Texas and New Mexico lies the town of Glen Rio. Founded in 1901, it was a town where wheat and cattle farmers settled and grew a community. Being divided between two states made for some unusual customs in Glenrio. The mill would arrive at a train depot on the Texas side, but would have to be transported to the post office on the New Mexico side. The Texas side was part of a dry county, so all the bars were on the New Mexico side. Because the gasoline tax was higher in New Mexico, all the service stations were on the Texas side. By 1920, Glenrio had a hotel, a hardware store, and a land office, as well as several grocery stores, service stations, and cafes. Though Glenrio's permanent population then rose above 30 people, the town survived with its tourist-based businesses catering to the many travelers along Route 66. By 1985, only 2 residents remained in the small town, and the Texas Post Office was the only business open. It too has long since closed. Other buildings have overgrown sides, missing windows, or debris surrounding them. The detritus of 4 decades when Glenrio welcomed tens of thousands, fed and entertained them, and sent them on their way towards Chicago or California. In at number 3, we have Nevada City in Montana. Miners settled in Nevada City in 1963, along with establishing their homes and businesses in this new town. Located in southwestern Montana, the town is 1.5 miles from Virginia City. The town was thriving up until 1876, when the gold miners moved to other promising sites. In 1896, the Conway Placer Mining Company destroyed most of the city's buildings. The company dredged the gulch and later abandoned it, leaving heavy wooden barges. This abandoned town being haunted is old news, as the Nevada City Hotel is reported to be frequented by the apparition of a road agent who lost their life nearby, according to online sources. Visitors have also reported hearing footsteps in the hallways and seeing shadowy figures standing behind their reflections in mirrors. Additionally, the spirit of an older cowboy figure who never speaks but lurks in the hotel rooms and even sits at the bar in the Virginia City. Back when the hotel operated, guests also complained of a weeping woman, always in the same room, only to be told there was no guest in the room in question. In at number 2, we have Custer, Idaho. The mining town of Custer was born in 1879 by gold miners looking for their next gold hotspot. Prospectors discovered gold in what would become known as the Yankee Fork area of central Idaho in 1867. The area was worked on at a small scale for more than a decade before the discovery of General Custer Mine. The General Custer Mining Company closed in 1888 and the district experienced a sharp decline. In 1899, the town of Custer has 5 saloons, 3 stores, a hotel, and 3 boarding houses, but the town never established even one church. By 1910, most of the mines in the area were closed, and the Yankee Forks boom years came to an end. The combined population of Custer and the nearby Bonanza was just 66 people. The Silver Messenger reports just 2 families remaining in Custer in 1911, and then being fully abandoned the year following. Today, it has been purchased by the U.S. Forestry Service, and in conjunction with the Friends of Custer Society, is slowly being made into a historic site. Some original buildings have already been renovated, some are in process, and many others are slated to be restored. Several buildings lost in the 1960s grass fires are due to be replaced with replicas. The forgotten town is a landmark for many people, such as tourists and especially paranormal investigators. In the old schoolhouse is a museum containing items left behind and showcases the town's unique history. Although interesting, you can't help but get an eerie feeling thinking about the people who once owned these items, as walking into one of these structures is like walking back in time. To think this town was once active with human energy and miners working every single day. And finally, in another one, we have South Pass City, Wyoming. Only about 10 miles north of the Oregon Trail is the shell of a town that used to be a busy gold mining camp. Established in a small valley along the banks of Willow Creek, the town was born in 1867. The town was built there because gold was discovered in the Wind River Mountains. By 1868, South Pass City boasted over 250 buildings, 1,000 people, and hundreds of claims. The town was extremely busy as its half-a-mile-long main street boasted numerous hotels, restaurants, general stores, 2 newspapers, doctors, a bowling alley, and dozens of saloons. The mining district continued to grow to as many as 3,000 residents. Miners looking for investors and newspapers promoting further settlement in the area exaggerated the region's amount of gold. But for South Pass City, its great success wouldn't last, and just 2 years after its establishment would begin to show its first signs of declining. Hitting a fall in early 1869, the town resurged briefly after outsider capital was poured into the area, but would fall again as expenses and hardship ships to recover the gold proved too costly for most miners. By 1872, the town was only occupied by only a few hundred people. In the end, South Pass would become a permanent ghost town. By 1949, the last of the pioneer families had moved on from South Pass City, and the buildings had fallen into disrepair. The grounds of the old town are known to be haunted, and Highway 287 that follows the route of the Oregon Trail over South Pass, which is the reason South Pass City ever existed, has had its fair share of ghost sightings. According to a local ghost story, a woman was driving home from a long day in Denver. Her friend had fallen asleep in the...
Introducing glass office chair mats by Vitraza, the premium alternative to cracked curl.
Passenger seat. After passing through Jeffrey City, the driver spotted a dark, hunched figure walking toward the road in the sagebush. About a half-mile later, she saw the same figure closer to the road. She noted his pink coat as he became clearer. About a half-mile later, still thinking about this man and his surprising reappearance, she reached over towards her friend and requested she take a turn driving. As her friend awoke, she saw the same man.
Yo, what's going on, brother, man? My bad, I just seen the message.
Onto the highway next to the car. Screaming that
I downloaded it before and I started playing it, but I never really, played it.
Number 5 on this list is her
Is that multiplayer?
Considering how difficult that is to say, and it did take me a while, for the rest of this entry, I'm going to refer to this place as the Lightning Meadow. The Lightning Meadow is located near the village of Kupiich in the northern areas of the country. It's pretty isolated and completely surrounded by thick forests. Even though it's relatively in the middle of nowhere, it's still developed quite the legend for itself. This is largely due to the incredibly strange phenomena that occur at this place. As you probably guessed by the nickname that I gave to it, these strange occurrences involve lightning. Roughly a dozen people have been struck by lightning at this one location. That's a lot of people to get struck by lightning in one faraway Ukrainian
That's
meadow.
great.
Sometimes this place also emits a very strange glow. Locals will see it in the sky and know to stay away. It's this large cylinder of light that comes from the meadow and darts into the sky so all around the area can see it. This place also reportedly gives off the same feelings as our typical haunted spots, with many people who visit it feeling immense sensations of dread. Potentially they're just dreading getting hit by lightning though, because it seems that the odds are pretty good here. Locals avoid this meadow, and my recommendation to you, unless you want to get a very powerful shock, is to do the same. Number 4 on this list is Pitcairn Castle. This castle is considered to be one of the most beautiful in the whole country. Its construction started out with a defensive fortification that was built in the 15th century and then blossomed from there to what it is today. The beauty of this castle is slightly overshadowed though by the creepy legends that currently surround it. A Ukrainian blog writes, "The history of the famous palace has many mysterious pages. There are many incredible rumors about one of the owners of the castle, a politician, Siren Rizwuski, because of his rather peculiar hobby. They say that in his secret alchemical laboratory, Rizwuski was making a magical longevity potion and was searching for a philosopher's stone to create gold. He conducted these experiments and organized treasure hunting to attempt to improve the financial situation of the family. Today in the dungeon of the castle, you can find an alchemical workshop. In the dusk, among the magical items, you can immerse yourself in the mysterious past of the castle." This isn't the only mystery that surrounds this place, though. One of the most famous legends talks of a young girl who approaches visitors and asks to be given a proper Christian burial. It's believed that she's the ghost of a young woman who was banished from the castle by her husband and left for dead. There's also a white lady that floats throughout the castle walls. It's unclear whether the young girl and the white lady are one and the same, or if they're two separate ghosts sharing the same space. This castle's been featured on several television shows specifically about haunting, so if you desperately do feel the need to visit it, then I recommend at least giving one of those a watch first so you know what you're getting yourself into. Number 3 on this list is Vignina Lake. Vignina Lake is located in central Ukraine and is considered to be one of the most haunted lakes in the world. This lake is often not referred to as Vignina Lake though, it actually is the ghost lake. If you ever visit this lake, then you'll see a very interesting sight. Typically there'll be a lot of people around. Some will be fishing, others may be picnicking, some may be hiking along the side, but no one, not a single person in all of this, will be swimming. The name Vignina is a derivative of the Ukrainian word for window. It's believed that this lake is actually a window into a whole other world. That this lake is a portal that can bring spirits from this other dimension, and if you aren't careful, send you down into it as well. Because of this lake's designation as a portal to another world, the water has some special qualities. For one, it
never freezes. Ukraine can get pretty cold, but no matter how cold the area gets, this lake refuses to freeze over. This is probably due to the incredible amount of energy that's within it. This energy also makes the fish grow incredibly quickly. The rates of growth and the overwhelming size of some of the fish that are in this lake make it one of the best spots for fishermen in the whole country. It's unclear if anyone has actually been lost down.
Now that lake sounds
But
fire
it seems the
though.
locals believe in this lake legend enough that they don't want to see for themselves. Honestly, seeing a portal to another world would be pretty cool, but who knows what can come out of there. Highly recommend going if you want to fish or see some nice scenery. Highly don't recommend going if you're looking to take a dip though. Number 2 on this list is Bilhorod Dnistrovsky Fortress. Yeah, try saying that 5 times fast. This fortress is also referred to as the Ackerman Fortress and was first built over 1,000 years ago. It's one of the largest castles in all of Ukraine and also one of the biggest tourist attractions. The scenery is lovely, the architecture is beautiful, but the draw of these tourists is typically the hauntings. This castle is built over a collection of underground passageways. These passageways may look abandoned if you go down there, but locals believe them to be the home of some very strange creatures. Reports have come out over the years of people passing by the castle getting attacked by some dark-horned entities. These beasts have a very unique and pungent odor to them and are incredibly stealthy. The attacks have taken place at nighttime, and the victims of these have said that they were so fast that they couldn't defend themselves. The leading theory is that this is the home to some demonic kind of Australopithecus. If you're unfamiliar with what that is, then it's a type of ape that had both human and ape-like features. Very strong, very fast, and excellent climbers. These things used to live in Africa. How they managed to take up refuge at this castle in Ukraine and develop devil horns is anyone's guess. Ukraine has tons of castles to explore, so don't feel bad about leaving this one off your list and visiting some of the other ones instead. Number 1 on this list is Lisa Hora. Look up any list of haunted spots in Ukraine, and I guarantee that they will all have Lisa Hora close to the top. Nowadays, this place is a beautiful Ukrainian park, but it's had a deep and dark history attached to it. It's located in Kiev, and many of the local Kievians don't like to go near it. Over the years, this place has been used as a military plant, a garrison, prison, and a defense space. All of these places during our history have been the host to some very untimely and brutal deaths. Maybe the most sinister things that this place has been home to are the ancient pagan rituals that took place here. For several hundreds of years, this was considered to be a sacred spot, and sacrificial pagan rituals would happen every now and again. The pagan sacrifices eventually stopped, but then the state-sanctioned executions began. That's right, guys. This is also a place where state criminals were executed. In fact, the gallows from that time are said to still be standing. Throw on the fact that there have been an uncomfortably large number of people taking their own life here, and you get the perfect storm to lead to some serious hauntings. For one, the feelings of dread and despair here are widely documented. This is actually why a lot of people believe there have been so many self-inflicted deaths here. Rather than somebody deciding this is where they want to end their life, they actually enter the park in good spirits and then come to that decision by just being exposed to the environment for a long period of time. Along with these feelings of dread, there have also been a ton of reports about the smell. People have said that they felt the touch by some sort of creature and that an incredibly stinky odor has filled the air when they do. Some people have speculated that maybe this forest is home to the Walking Dead or guarded by some ogre-like being because of these smells. It may even be home to several demons that we've yet to identify. Whatever sick and scary thing lives inside of it, it's clear that it doesn't want you or I poking around its home. Seriously wouldn't recommend putting Lisa Hora on the travel plans if you're headed to Ukraine. Number 5 on this list is the Plaza Theater Performing Arts Center. Built in 1930, this beautiful theater has had many shows and screenings here over the years. For 55 years, it was in operation as one of the premier spots to have your movie shown, but in 1985, the theater shut down. It remained as such for about 20 years when in 2006, it began to get renovated. Now it's mainly just for live theater and other performance art in the city of El Paso. Like a lot of beautiful old theaters, though, as time passes, legends emerge, and this one in particular certainly has its fair share. The Plaza Theater for Performance Arts Center has 3 primary ghostly apparitions it houses. The first is a very standard and very classic drifting woman in white. Looking sad and down on her luck, the spirit of this woman will often drift around through the rafters and has been seen by many workers throughout the years. The second is a man in all black who materializes in front of people. He's described a bit like a shadow creature, but slightly less menacing. I suppose if we have our woman in white, it's only fitting that we have a man in black to get a little bit of variety going. The third ghost sticks with the theme of spicing things up and is actually a little boy with a bouncing ball. It's not a basketball, but a small bouncy ball that the child seemingly plays with as he haunts the theater. Nobody knows the origin of these ghosts or how they got here at all. Are they connected? Maybe once a family unit who died here together, or are they all separate and have each suffered strange tragedies at this location over the century? El Paso, I'm sure, has some other theaters, and I'd stick to those ones if you're looking to watch some live shows if you're there. Number 4 on this list is Henley Row. Located on the Texan island of Galveston on the Gulf Coast, this is the most famous haunted spot for locals in the region. Texas Highways writes, "It's not surprising that Henley Row is a hotspot for supernatural activity. Completed between 1855 and 1858 for shippers and cotton brokers, it was the town's tallest structure during the Civil War. The roof doubled as a Confederate lookout for Union ships. Galveston and nearby barrier islands, history had been laced with tragedy. It was the site of a bloody Civil War fight, and serial epidemics of yellow fever decimated the populace. Hurricanes blast through regularly. The 1990 storm left up to 12,000 casualties in the worst natural disaster in U.S. history. No wonder Texas writer Brian Woolley called Galveston an old cemetery with a beach attached. The resident ghosts of Henley Row represent aspects of Galveston history. There's the Confederate soldier seen on the roof and around the building. The bloodied teenage factory worker is a vestige of the building's cotton grading days. The lady in white and the running and playing little boy and little girl are thought to be 1900 storm victims. The upper floors house apartments and offices now, but Henley Market's glass ceiling reveals views of stairs and landings. During renovations, workers reported tools mysteriously moving around. Staff recall other spooky experiences as well. Some years ago, a friend gave her old photo of Dr. Wilbur from a house on Church Street that's always displayed in the shop. When Hurricane Ike inundated the building with 10 feet of water in 2008, the photo went undamaged while many other things were destroyed. Every year on November 1st, employees construct an elaborate Day of the Dead altar that includes the photo and lighted candles. Before closing, the staff follows a 3-person backup routine to ensure the candles are completely extinguished, even dousing them with water. Yet almost every single year, one or more candles are burning the next morning. I can't imagine working at a place where we had to light candles for our ghost altar. Like, that action alone would make me want to quit immediately. I suppose the one good thing is that the ghosts here don't appear to be particularly evil or wanting to inflict harm. Still though, waking up and heading to work is already a tall task as it is, but knowing that there's a dead little boy and girl waiting there, yeah, that's a solid no-go for me. Number 3 on this list is the USS Lexington. The ship has its own museum dedicated to it now, and it is 100% haunted. The decommissioned World War II aircraft carrier is riddled with different phantoms. This museum is literally said to receive, on average, hundreds of reports of ghostly apparitions in 1 year. That is so much supernatural energy that has just congregated here. Now, World War II was obviously an awful time, and if this boat played a major role in the Battle of the Atlantic, which I imagine it did, then it assuredly saw its fair share of tragedies. The ghosts are not quiet about their presence. They make themselves very known. One of the most famous ones resides in the engine room. Apparently, visitors will go there and a spirit will form, explaining the
eBay Authenticity Guarantee is checked by experts. Every cent tag for the logo, so you'll always get that feeling of free.
climate rises and ice melts, we are finding more things that have been frozen in ice. Hello everyone, welcome back to our channel. I'm your host Emily, and today we're counting down our list of the top 10 horrifying discoveries scientists found frozen in ice for centuries. Coming in at number 10 is the Iceman. The mummy of Ozi, aka the Iceman, was found in 1991 in the Oslo Alps, Italy. It's believed that the Iceman belonged to 3000 BCE, and his body was preserved because the glacier that surrounded him had died. Evidence suggests that he had his life ended by someone due to presence of several wounds and an arrowhead embedded in his shoulder. His life and the circumstances surrounding his death remain among the most significant European mysteries. Now, however, soon after his discovery, people who were involved with his discovery began to die due to violent accidents. Forensic pathologist Rainer Henn died in a horrific car accident, mountaineer Kurt Fritz died in an avalanche, and hiker Helmut Simon died after falling off a dangerous hidden path. The Iceman then claimed 3 more lives in quick succession between 2004 and 2005. Now, it's thought that anyone who comes into contact with the Iceman will die, and people believe that the discovery of the Iceman is a curse and has the power to destroy mankind. All I'm saying is, I would never get close to him. Number 9. Viruses. One major fear of global warming is that it could release unknown pathogens into the air, some of which may have the capacity to seriously hinder and endanger humanity. Now, a lung sample from a woman's body exhumed in 1997 from permafrost in a village on the Seaward Peninsula of Alaska contained genomic material from the influenza strain responsible for the 1918 pandemic. In 2012, scientists confirmed that the 300-year-old mummified remains of a woman buried in Siberia contained the genetic signatures of the virus that causes smallpox. An anthrax outbreak in Siberia that affected dozens of humans and more than 2,000 reindeer between July and August in 2016 has also been linked to the deeper thawing of permafrost during exceptionally hot summers, allowing old spores of bacillus anthracis to resurface from old burial grounds or animal carcasses. In 2015, researchers from China and the United States traveled to Kalia ice cap in Tibet and drilled a 164-foot hole into the ice to study samples. What they found was no less than 33 different viruses, 28 of which had never been seen by human eyes. According to environmental virologist Chantal Alberdelf, we are very far from sampling the entire diversity of viruses on Earth. Now, that's positively unsettling considering there were 28 found in a Tibetan glacier alone. Number 8. With speed. Explorer Ernest Shackleton was one of the key figures in the heroic age of Antarctic exploration. Shackleton dreamed of being the first to reach the South Pole, but lost that race to Roald Amundsen, although that didn't stop him from exploring.
Yo, gang.
Yo, what, I'm gonna ask, what do I tell these, like, that's how.
Oh, for the cards, they 1 gram. Yeah. Alright, but.
Exploring the icy region. One of his most heroic acts occurred after his ship, the Endurance, became stuck in ice. He saved each crew member with bravery, quick thinking, and strong leadership. Now, on another trip in 1909, Shackleton left behind 3 cases of scotch and 2 cases of brandy. He intended to enjoy the alcohol on his return, but sadly, Shackleton never got the chance as he died of a heart attack on return to his voyage to Antarctica in 1921. Now, almost 100 years later, in 2010, workers in the Antarctic found Shackleton's bottles of alcohol frozen in the ice, aged to perfection. Number 7. Lake Vostok. In the late 1950s, the Soviet Union established the Vostok Station at the pole of cold on Princess Elizabeth Land in Antarctica. As researchers checked the thickness of the ice, they were shocked to discover Lake Vostok 13,000 feet below the ice surface. Russian scientists believe the lake was isolated roughly 15 to 25 million years ago. With a thick Antarctic sheet covering the lake, it remained untouched for centuries. Research on the ice and lake provided scientists with insight into the Earth's history. Now, the Russian team plans to eventually lower a probe into the lake to collect water samples and sediments from the bottom. It's
It's hypothesized that unusual forms of life could be found in the lake's liquid layer, a fossil water reserve. Now, because Lake Rosette may contain an environment still off below the ice for millions of years, the conditions could resemble those of ice-covered oceans hypothesized to exist on Jupiter and Saturn's moon. Number 6, Yucca the Mammoth. Yucca the Mammoth is the mummified corpse of a juvenile female woolly mammoth that was found near and named after the village Yucca, whose local people discovered it. This mammoth mummy was found as an overhanging ledge about 13 feet above the beach level in a low-wave cut bluff that was about 16 feet high. Found in 2010, the mammoth died approximately 39,000 years ago. After its discovery, Yucca spent 2 years stored and preserved in a natural refrigerator. The local permafrost would convert. An analysis of the teeth and tusks determined Yucca to be approximately 6 to 8 years old when it died, coming in at about 5 tons. Now, although it's presumed that this mammoth had most likely been attacked by lions or other predators, evidence that the predators had killed the mammoth was not found. In March 2019, a Japanese research team led by Kazo Yamagata, a biologist at Kanda University, worked with Yucca's tissue. Yamagata's team reported that they were able to simulate nucleus-like structures to perform some biological processes. However, they cannot activate cell division. Yucca is now on display in Moscow, and it is quite creepy, to say the least. It's considered the best preserved mammoth in the world, and you can clearly see why. Number 5, mother-daughter mummies. In 2017, archaeologists found mummies buried in the Zelyar burial site near the Russian town of Stalkar. They found 2 mummies, one adult woman and the other her daughter. These mummies are estimated to be 900 years old and are said to be part of an unknown medieval culture. The interesting thing was that the female mummy is the only female in the burial ground, leading some to assume that she was an elite member of society. It's also interesting and creepy because only her head has been preserved. On the head, you can still see her hair and eyelashes, and her face has a green tint due to the copper she was buried in. By finding this, the team who found them will be better able to understand the little-known civilization that lived in this region between the 8th and 13th centuries. Between the 8th and 13th centuries AD. Alexander Gustav, expedition leader, said their remains were found near one of the 3 monuments at Zelyar. They were buried in a north-south direction, their feet facing a river, the significance of which is thought to be religious. And who these people were and how they ended up on the edge of the Arctic is not known, but previous DNA analysis has shown them to have links to Russia. Researchers are currently working to connect the civilization to local indigenous populations living in the region today. Number 4, fish. The freezing of an animal, insect, or fish can happen at any moment when the temperature suddenly drops and everything begins to freeze. So this is what happened when 2 brothers went fishing on a Wawa Sea Lake in Indiana a few years ago after a cold snap. They made a startling, bizarre, and mysterious discovery. They found a pike frozen in the ice of the lake. Now, in most cases, a frozen fish isn't a big deal, however, the pike died in the middle of eating a bass. The most probable theory suggests that the pike choked on the bass, died, and was frozen in time, the 2 fish entwined together forever. Now, at first, nobody believed the 2 brothers on social media. Most assumed it to be a special effect or joke, but they released graphic footage of them cutting the pike in half to eat bass out of the ice, much to the surprise of their followers. Now, it's unknown how long it was frozen for, but I can't imagine finding something like that. Number 3, dinosaur bones.
Raise the Sam Adams. They say you can't choose family. That's why there's beer. Your cousin from Boston.
Turns out that many dinosaur bones have been found in the frozen tundra of the Antarctic. The first were discovered in 1986 by Argentinian geologists Eduardo Olivero and Roberto Sesto, who unearthed remains of the ankylosaur. These bones were found on James Ross Island and were born of a dinosaur. Other dinosaurs are continuously found in Antarctica as well. But it's not like these dinosaurs were roaming on an icy landscape. Antarctica, as we know it, only formed about 25 million years ago, long after the dinosaurs had gone extinct. Before that, it was a part of the supercontinent called Gondwana, and it was actually quite tropical. Number 2, the meteorite. In 2021, a research assistant Matthias van Wilken was working at the Belgium Princess Elizabeth Antarctica Station when he made a shocking discovery. He discovered 13 black particles at the Ronan Mountains, Queen Mode Land, and East Antarctica. The scientists soon realized it was pieces of a meteorite. They theorized that the meteorite was barreling towards Earth roughly 430,000 years ago and exploded in the sky above East Antarctica when it entered the atmosphere. Then earlier in 2015, NASA scientists found a small meteorite that fell to Earth 13 years earlier, landing in the icy cold Antarctica. Now, evidence suggests that the object contained microbes from Mars. Number 1 is million-year-old DNA. In the fall of 2022, scientists announced that they uncovered million-year-old DNA just north of the continent of Antarctica. Scientists actually accidentally collected the unusual genetic samples up to 584 feet beneath the seafloor as part of a 2019 survey led by the International Ocean Discovery Program in the Scotia Sea north of mainland Antarctica. The ancient sediment that was discovered is now the oldest marine DNA found from seafloor sediments. The team looked closely at damage patterns within the covered DNA fragments to establish exactly how old they were. Now, the oldest fragments have been around 1 million years old. Now, until now, the oldest set of DNA, which was found locked inside Arctic permafrost, dated around 650,000 years ago. This DNA will be analyzed and studied by scientists, as it will tell us a lot about the polar marine ecosystem, as well as how climate change may affect Antarctica. Well, that's all for our list of the top 10 horrifying discoveries scientists found frozen in ice for centuries. Now, which one do you think was the creepiest? Let us know in the comments down below, and don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. I'm your host, Emily, and we'll see you next time. Peace.
I'm glad you're here, mate. I'm sorry that everything's so old-fashioned. This place, it's not.
Starting off in our number 10 spot, we have mollyvirus. Back in 2015, French researchers discovered a gigantic virus that they found in a sample of Siberian permafrost. This spherical DNA virus wasn't just any old virus. No, this one was about 30,000 years old. For the virus to survive that long, frozen in ice, truly is remarkable and also absolutely terrifying. There is good news, however. It is said that although some refer to this virus as a bacillus, that the new discovery only infects amoebas, which means that it is unlikely to ravage the planet anytime soon. At least we hope. In our number 9 spot today, we have Lake Vostok. Many of us have heard of Atlantis, but have you heard of Lake Vostok? This lake is located in Antarctica, and it is so huge, it's one of the largest lakes in the entire world. The lake not only has a large surface area, but it's also quite deep, which only adds to the volume of the lake. It's like the lakiest lake out there, and here's the thing about it. It is covered by ice. And not just any ice, but the East Antarctic ice sheet, which is just the largest ice sheet in the world. This subglacial lake has ice so thick that we don't really know a lot about what lies beneath it, and the ice has been there for millions of years. But when the first samples of the actual lake water were taken, it became apparent that there may be species in the lake that we know absolutely nothing about. In our number 8 spot today, we have the female mummy. Back in 2017, there was a mummy found in Siberia that absolutely rocked the scientific community. This discovery was so remarkable because deep within the permafrost, close to the Arctic Circle, they found the mummified remains of a woman who was roughly 900 years old. Said to have come from the medieval times, this marked the first woman to be discovered in that area, as previously it had been mostly men. It appears as though the mummification part was accidental, but it was quite a surprise to researchers who had thought that they wouldn't find a woman's remains in the area at all. It is said that all of the bodies found in this area belonged to the hunting and fishing civilization, and this discovery gave experts very valuable insight into their lives and the times in which they lived. In our number 7 spot today, we have Mount Erebus. Mount Erebus is the highest active volcano in Antarctica, as well as the southernmost active volcano on Earth. But a lot's going on. The volcano has been active for 1.3 million years, and it features a lava lake in the inner summit, which has been present since the early 1970s. You might be thinking, it's a volcano, which surely is like the opposite of ice, right? But as it turns turns out this volcano is like the definition of fire and ice. Here you can be sure to find numerous ice fumaroles, which are ice towers that float around the gases that are released or that escape from the vents on the surface. This creates a perfect home, not for many, but for some persevering and adaptable bacteria and fungi. This gives scientists quite the opportunity to study these organisms that can live in this extreme environment that doesn't really provide a lot of resources. And at number 6 spot today, we have the Iceman. The mummy of Otzi, who is also referred to as the Iceman, was found in 1991 in the Otsal Alps in Italy. It is believed that Otzi lived around 3000 BC, and his body became mummified and preserved because of the glacier that surrounded him post-mortem. While this is an incredibly interesting discovery, the finding of Otzi may have come in a package with an old curse just waiting to be released. Here's the thing, the people who helped with the discovery of Otzi are all dying under mysterious circumstances. I mean, it is said that there were 7 deaths in 1 year alone, so if there is a curse, it's clearly a pretty strong one. It's almost as if disturbing a man who's been in the same spot for 53 centuries wasn't the best idea that anyone's ever had. In at number 5 spot today, we have Europa. We are going off-planet for this one. One of Jupiter's moons, called Europa, has a red tinge to it, and in 2001, NASA scientists revealed that it's possible that alien microbes might be responsible for this red color. The surface of this moon is mostly ice, but it has been shown that it reflects infrared radiation in a really bizarre way. This means that
There's 3 things that you might not know about Snapchat ads.
something is binding it together, but researchers haven't been able to come up with the correct combination of elements and compounds to make the data make sense. There are some bacteria on Earth that can thrive in extreme conditions that also have that red and brown color, which could potentially be responsible for the color on this moon. The surface temperature might be too cold for them to survive, but the warmer interior might be where they're located. Some geological activity on the moon could then push them closer to the surface, where they're then in place. And at number 4 spot today, we have P38. In 2018, a team of researchers were using a drone with round penetrating radar technology, and they found something that no one could have predicted. 300 feet deep in the Greenland ground, encased in ice, was a World War II plane. This P38 Lightning fighter plane is actually just one out of 8 that were a squadron. This P38 Lightning fighter plane was actually just one out of 8 that were part of a squadron. This group had all been lost and had crash landings after a blizzard on July 15th, 1942. After locating the fighter plane, researchers were able to then excavate it, but there still remains at least 4 in the squadron that have yet to be located. In our number 3 spot today, we have Skeleton Lake, also sometimes referred to as Mystery Lake. This place is exactly what it sounds like. It's a lake and there's a bunch of skeletons there. Located in the Himalayas, this lake freezes over in the winter months, but when the snow melts, there are various skeletons around the site that become visible around the edges of the lake. There have been many speculations as to how these people died, and at one point it was thought that these remains were a result of a pretty legendary event where, all in a single group, they were killed by a large and violent hailstorm, but the leading theory has since changed. Now it is said that the remains actually belong to 3 distinctly different groups who all died in separate events. At this point, the real story of what happened here may just remain a mystery that has left us with a haunting image. In our number 2 spot today, we have Nuba. This is the name that was given to a baby mammoth. Mummified remains were found frozen and extremely well preserved in ice. Nuba would have roamed the earth about 48,000 years ago, which is truly incredible to think about. These mammoth remains were found in 2007, but it's actually a complete accident. The remains were found by a hunter who was out on a frozen peninsula in Russia. But here's where the story takes a bit of a crazy turn. So the man who discovered these remains is a cultural belief that touching a mammoth would cause millions of travel to a different time, and this is when they decided to contact the authorities. The authorities then flew up to the area to collect the remains, but when they arrived, she had disappeared. The family knew that someone had taken her to try to her coffin, so he began doing some investigation. Long story short, they found the remains outside of a local store, and this is when it was revealed to them that the guy who had found the remains initially, his cousin had stolen them and brought them here in exchange for 2 snowmobiles. In the end, there was unfortunately minor damage to the body that included dogs having chewed off her right ear, but still the find and discovery was still incredible, and she was transported to a museum where she continues to give people a look into a time on Earth long ago.
Number 10, abandoned whiskey. Alright, here we go. 1 and 2 of this list was pretty dark.
Oh my god. I better not lose to him again. Tight, I just switched around this man. I need my healers to heal faster. It's like I wish I could control them. And this game for Zelda Symphonia, right? You can like control your healers and the other characters in the game. I like that. You know, not just leaving it up to stupid ass. Even though, like, depending on the type of player you are, yeah, you know, it's good to roll your dice with it. But no, not me. I know what the fuck I'm doing. Let me do it myself.
Notebooks, I'm so interested right off the bat. Maybe I've played too much Zelda, I don't know. But notebooks feel very national treasure to me when you find them. This notebook here once belonged to a surgeon, believe it or not. It's over 100 years old when it was found in a frozen hut in Antarctica. The owner was George Levick. He was a photographer and, of course, a surgeon who traveled with the last expedition of Robert Scott. This expedition was from 1910 to 1913. Now, the book itself was completely frozen, the bindings were completely toast, but the parts that they carried is really you can still read descriptions of photos that George Levick had taken. Like his first observation, all those notes that he took down, we can still read them, so it's amazing.
The microphone.
Here's a notebook, and there's a bunch of like crazy S's that we used to draw back in school with those pointy, like what are these?
Oh.
This is detailed, the guys be like, you nailed it, that was perfect. Number 8, the glacier.
Oh, I'm gonna die.
This next one is a plane, not a woman. I got your back. The P-23 aircraft was discovered in Greenland, surrounded in ice. Now, this was during World War II in July 1946.
Good fucking shit. Ooh, I thought he was about to get me. Oh, you about to say me.
Lousy weather conditions, and of course, vulnerability. The crew was saved, but the blockhead had to be abandoned, sadly, never to be seen again for 50 years. It was then dug out of 264 feet of snow and ice, and it took years to finally get this plane back in action. She's known as the Glacier Girl, and in 2007, Lewis Energy CEO, Rodney Lewis, bought the plane. Number 7, million-year-old plant. Back in 2019, and of course, Greenland, the preserved fossils of a million-year-old plant was discovered. We love it. This was under the ice near a secret Cold War military camp. Yeah, an ancient flower found at a Cold War military camp. What a headline that would be. In 1959, Project Iceworm was underway. Now, I mentioned that project on this channel here before, and that in itself is a pretty bizarre frozen adventure in history, okay? Eventually, the project was scrapped and abandoned. Now, cut to 2019, it was rediscovered, and scientists at the University of Vermont found parts of a million-year-old flower. Not what you'd expect to find under a secret Cold War base, you know? He's like, oh, it's kind of nice. The fragments were all so well preserved that it looked like the flower had died recently. Not, you know, a million years ago. Studies plans can also provide clues on our future and where our current plans might end up. Number 6, 3 Inca mummies. Discovered by John Weinhardt on March 16, 1999 near the summit of the Latico, so around 7,000 meters up in the sky. This is your Argentina and Chile borders. This is far away. Further studies found that they were most likely sacrificed all in the name of a religion and a ritual around the year 1500. Yeah, so quite a while ago. They were found in a small opening less than 2 meters deep under the ground, so again, this discovery was shocking. They looked like they were just asleep, but in reality, they died sometime around the 1500s. They're some of the most well-preserved mummies in the world. They now rest at an exhibition at the Museum of High Altitude Archaeology. High Altitude Archaeology. Number 5, Allen Hills Meteorite. Okay, this next one is literally out of this world, so back in December 1984, American meteor hunters discovered this fragment in Allen Hills, Antarctica. The meteor was appropriately named Allen Hills 84001, and this rock was speculated to come from Mars. In 1996, a scientist claimed that he discovered bacteria from the microscopic fossils on the meteorite. Now, this news, of course, spread very quickly, and everybody started losing their goddamn minds. Bill Clinton even chimed in. He made a speech about possible discoveries in space, right? Everyone's freaking out. Could this be aliens? Yeah, the scientific community later said this was not the case after further studies, but hey, never say never. Feels like we're closer to finding life with James Webb right now, honestly. I'm afraid to hit refresh.
Damn, I could have did it again, too.
700 galaxies. You don't matter. I'm like, thanks, James. We love it. Keep snapping those pics. Number 4, Otzi the Iceman. Discovered in September 1991, this mummy was found on the border of Austria and Italy. He's Europe's oldest known.
On December 1st, legendary director John Woo returns with a new Christmas classic.
Yeah, just don't take a long one. Right?
Okay. December 1st.
Ooh, great presentation. Just 4 more rounds to go. Oh, wait, 4.
4 times 127 slides? That's like 500. Hey, I should just record and share.
Natural mummy. Boats a 45-year-old man from the Copper Age was left in rather great condition, surprisingly. A 5,000-year-old man was found in ice, so I hate to say this, but you lose this round, Captain America. I see you in the comments. I'm sorry, I had to get you out of here with that. Before he passed away in the Italian Alps, Otzi had a number of health problems. He had arthritis, Lyme disease, he was lactose intolerant, this is horrible. Thanks to science, we now know that Otzi, the Iceman, was sharpening his tools right before his scientific death. So he fought until the end. Number 3, three kittens. Don't worry, they are all okay. Spoiler alert.
Oh, another smite. Smile.
Rain Jewish found 3 kittens all frozen to the ground.
Fuck.
Now, it was mid-January, everything was frozen.
One time.
That he'd been working on. On Facebook, they posted about how the 3 kittens were all males, they were all safe worms, and now they were all living under the same roof.
Save Hogan's Rust. Come on, no. Camille cannot die. She is way much more of a better healer.
How amazing is that? I've said it before, I'll say it again. Coffee saves lives. That's it. Double doubles. Ooh, every morning.
Good shit. Good fucking shit.
Dethawed myself with a nice French vanilla. Number 2, message in a frozen bottle. Okay, here we go. Now that song, Message in a Bottle, is going to be stuck in everyone's head watching this. That song from Guitar Hero 2, hands down. That and Surrendered by Cheap Trick. What a time, right? So fun. Anyways, back in 1959, back on track, the geologist named Paul Walker, great name, buried a message in a bottle. He wanted to make a lasting statement about climate change. So he put this frozen message underneath rocks in a glacier in 1959. And then cut to 2013, what do we find? Send message in a bottle. The message inside was to measure the length from that point to the edge of the glacier, but by 2013, said glacier had shrunk down to 200 feet. So the scientist really did show us. He was like, trust me, in 50 years, I'm going to get you this. Imagine he put the wrong note in. They open it up and it just says milk, eggs, bread. Is this a grocery list? This is definitely a grocery list. God damn it. Number 1, Ice Age art. Ancient artworks this time from the Colombian Amazon. Thing is, unlike other drawings found in the ceilings of tombs, this canvas stretched about 8 miles and it was all frozen. It was just a wasteland. This should have never been found. The paintings are even more impressive. They date back to 12,000 years ago. These were made near the end of the last ice age. Yeah, the end of the last ice age, we're doing doodles. Are you kidding me? I can't even go to the store if it's snowing out. I'm like, nah, I'm just gonna order it. Screw that. This guy's making art. Miles of art. These were found in 2017, but it was only last year when they went public with said findings. Those findings being paintings of elephants, massive sloths, horses from the Ice Age, snakes, birds, deer, etc. This is now one of the largest collections of rock art in South America. Yeah, this is pregnant women or the origin of the Ninja Turtles. Art, I don't know, couldn't tell you.
In number 10 spot, we have a frozen alien corpse. Scientists have discovered this frozen alien corpse in Russia. It was found by 2 people in Siberia after claims of a UFO came to Earth. Allegedly, it was missed by the Russian military after they cleaned up the area after the crash. The corpse was pretty damaged, but the being was 2 feet high, and part of his right leg was missing. Also, apparently this particular area in Russia is a hotspot for UFO sightings, and there are a number of reports of sightings every single year. In fact, there was a sighting that reported seeing a UFO crash in the area, and so the finding of this alien corpse aligns with that sighting. Whoa, I want to go to Siberia now. If there's anyone watching from Russia, from Siberia, please tell us of any other sightings that you may have come across in the comment section below. In number 9 spot, we have traces of potential alien DNA. Scientists have recently discovered traces of DNA outside some of the Antarctic caves, which could suggest alien life. From algae DNA to small animals, there was so much evidence to support the idea that perhaps there once was a lot more living species in Antarctica. They did not come across any animals in the caves at the time, but they still found this to be a great discovery and have reason to believe that they will discover more evidence as they continue their search, or perhaps alien life might be underneath the ice sheets as there are warm temperatures coming from underneath the sheets. And that would suggest that it might be a place they could easily live in. In our number 8 spot, we have UFO discovered. That's right, in October of 2020, satellite photos of Antarctica were taken that had many people stopped in their tracks. Surrounded by ice and
snow and with some ice still on it, we see an object that looks like half of a flying saucer that is also a bit raised, casting a shadow around it. As the ice sheets continue to melt around the world, it is believed that is why it has now been revealed, and it is also believed that this is potentially an aircraft from thousands, if not millions of years ago. According to experts, Antarctica would be a great place for aliens to go to because of how sterile it is, so it would make sense to land there. Of course, this is all speculation, and there's nothing further on this discovery at this time. In our number 7 spot, we have the Alaskan alien. On January 3rd, 1989, NASA's Alaska York Station made a great discovery. They found an alien frozen in ice. Yup, an alien just like we see in movies with great big eyes and bald head. Makes you wonder if perhaps the movies are showcasing these creatures the same because we already discovered aliens and someone somewhere is
After
telling
that.
illustrators to paint them a specific way.
Yeah, it was after the fireworks, bro.
To know all of this top secret information, although I guess
Oh.
if I was, then I wouldn't
I
be
can
able to
either.
make this video as I would probably have a target on my back. There is no other information on this discovery as it is considered top secret, but it is definitely a sign that alien life has been to this planet. In our number 6 spot, we have alien eggs. In 2015, it was reported that 2 friends were walking along a frozen lake in Utah when they discovered the most peculiar thing. There was a strange formation in the middle of the lake that honestly gives me shivers to look
Huh?
at. If you were someone
I never thought that there'd be a time I would do that.
together or eyeballs looking at you, definitely look away. This has the same sort of displeasing
Oh,
effect. Small holes were seen poking out from the ice with
I never would have imagined a life where I was making my own bread
what this is includes a
Mm-hmm.
UFO landing spot,
and
something
like
that aliens
checking the
left when they visited
ingredients.
Earth, and the popular theory
Oh
is
shit,
alien
drinking
eggs.
ginger
There were some things there that were slimy, so the 2 friends left them, and that's why people believe them to be eggs. What do you think this is? Let me know in the comment section below. In our number 5 spot, we have unknown frozen creatures. More frozen creatures in Siberia, you say? Yup. Clearly, this is an alien breeding ground of some sort. Strange creatures were recently found throughout Siberia. Many of these unknown creatures were found deceased and frozen in huge blocks of ice. There are creatures that have never been discovered, which are believed to be alien, and even a species of dog was discovered that is so old it goes back to 1000 AD. Wow. Well, I guess we're all going to have to plan our trip to Siberia, eh? Always wanted to go on an alien expedition, so this is definitely where I will be going next. In our 4 spot, we have Frozen on Mars. Okay, this one is like a little bit of a stretch, as this evidence was not found frozen on this planet, but it is evidence of alien life, and it was found on Mars. And Mars can get to a temperature of minus 60 degrees Celsius, which is way past freezing, so whatever. Imagine that this evidence.
Your Majesty, we are discovered.
I'm the first to admit when I make a mistake. I simply never do.
This vermin has held the world hostage.
It was found frozen, as it could very well have been. I just can't prove that, and I wanted to share this anyway. In 1976, the Viking Mars landers detected chemical signatures that indicated potential past life on the planet, or perhaps present life. An experiment mixing soil with radioactive carbon-labeled nutrients tested positive, and even though other tests done at the time did not test positive, the original scientists and others that have reanalyzed the data still stand by the original finding. There is definitely a possibility of alien life on Mars. In our number 3 spot, we have aliens in the water. In an interview in 2017, ex-NASA scientist Alan Stern spoke about the theory of alien life underwater frozen. He mentioned that aliens are found to exist and that scientists should focus more on water worlds. When he was asked about why aliens haven't been found to date, he was quoted as saying that there are many possible explanations. The great majority of worlds with biology and civilizations are water-ocean worlds. ETs at the bottom of ocean worlds would be protected from the likes of deadly radiation from space if their planet does not have a protective atmosphere like it does here on Earth, and exploding stars. He went on to speak about how ocean worlds are usually freezing cold and that these aliens would be living beneath a thick sheet of ice, and that is what would make it impossible to contact them. Fascinating. I can totally see this to be true as there's so much of the ocean that we haven't even begun to explore yet. In number 2 spot, we have alien fossils from Antarctica. Well, this is a wild one. In 1996, NASA scientists announced that they came upon a meteorite that appeared to be from Mars. A fossilized microbe in a potato-shaped lump of Martian rock was how it was described. It is believed that the meteorite was possibly from Mars and blasted off in a collision and wandered the solar system for, approximately 15 million years before coming to Earth and freezing for a little while in Antarctica. After further analysis of the rock, it apparently contained organic molecules and tiny stacks of mineral magnetite, as well as nanobacteria. There is much debate about whether this fully indicates alien life, but a lot of scientists believe that it does. In number 1 spot, we have a frozen ancient civilization. In 2017, there was a whistleblower by the name of Corey Goad, who claimed that it was discovered that an ancient alien civilization is frozen and buried under 2 miles of ice in Antarctica. Apparently, this discovery was made in 1939 by a German expedition, but it was only until 2002 that archaeologists and scientists were allowed on the site. Apparently, Goad originally only knew about this secret expedition because of a USAF officer working in the program, but eventually Goad himself journeyed to Antarctica with the U.S. Air Force to witness the secret project, where they have discovered the ruins of a 55,000-year-old alien civilization. Not much more was revealed, but hopefully in the next 10 years we will learn more about these findings. Number 10, dinosaur. When it comes to big things, dinosaurs were pretty damn big. Scientists were able to uncover the fossilized remains of a new and unknown species of dinosaur underneath the ice sheets in Greenland. When the dinosaurs were alive, the Earth was a lot warmer and more tropical, these fossils becoming trapped under the ice when the climate changed into the Ice Age. The skull they found is thought to be a 2-legged plant-eating dinosaur of medium size, and they dubbed the new species Issy-Sinique. The dinosaur is believed to have grown to the size of 10 to 30 feet, and the skull they found is thought to be that of a younger dinosaur that had not fully grown yet. They used computer technology to create 3D scans of the head before sending the specimens to the Natural History Museum in Denmark, as they have sovereignty over the country of Greenland. It is the first known dinosaur to have been native to Greenland and is thought to come from the late Triassic period around 200 million years ago. Number 9, bison. The massive carcass of a bison known as a bison was found by a gold mining family in Alaska way back in 1979. They were using a mining hose and were melting a frozen block of ice, effectively thawing out the creature that had become trapped inside. The bison species is from the Ice Age, and the body that they found is thought to be tens of thousands of years old. Once they were finally able to fully excavate the body, they found other things alongside it, including hair, insects, wood, and different plants. When the pelt of the animal reacted to the soil around it, it turned the body blue, and so the bison ended up being dubbed Blue Babe. Analysis of the body showed it had died 36,000 years ago, a result of being attacked by an Ice Age lion. The ice allowed the creature to be incredibly well preserved, scientists even being able to find pockets of blood in the body. Number 8, cave bear. This specimen found on an island in the Arctic was a very unique discovery, said to be one of the first of its kind. Researchers found a well-preserved body of a cave bear that was around 40,000 years old. Cave bears would grow to be around 7 feet long and typically weighed over 1,000 pounds in their adulthood. Before this discovery was made, they only knew about the animal from skulls and bones and had never found a specimen that was this fully preserved. The body that they found had all of its organs still, and even still had its nose on its face, paired with its terrifyingly massive sharp teeth. According to one of Russia's leading Ice Age experts, the discovery of the body was of world importance and is the first and only find of its kind. The body was found by a group of reindeer herders on the island and was then sent around to various scientists to study the life of the animal. Number 7, horned lark. Alright, some of these creatures aren't that big, but they're still pretty interesting, and size doesn't matter anyways. In
2018, fossil hunters were in the northeastern part of Siberia known as the Polar Cold, and they were tunneling into the permafrost. Deep underground, they discovered the body of a bird thought to be around 46,000 years old. But it was incredibly well preserved, and scientists say that it looks like it could have only died a few days ago. Researchers believe that it is the ancestor of the horned lark bird, and it is the first of its kind to have ever been discovered. It is also said to be one of the best preserved specimens ever discovered, as it was almost completely intact and still had all of its parts. The ice age that took place is thought to have generated many new species who adapted, and this is one of them. Siberia is home to a lot of frozen discoveries due to its freezing cold temperatures, and who knows what else is sitting in the ice, just waiting to be found. Number 6, wolf. The Pleistocene era, or Ice Age, lasted from about 2 million to 11,000 years ago, and many great extinct creatures we've discovered come from this era. One of these discoveries was the head of a massive Ice Age era wolf that was still snarling 40,000 years after it had died. It was found in a cold region of Russia and is one of the first full-sized frozen wolves ever to be discovered. They found it in the summer of 2018, and it was described as having mammoth-like fur, sharp fangs, and was between the ages of 2 and 4 when it passed away. Because only the head was discovered, it only gave small clues towards the evolution of wolves and how they have changed and adapted over the years. But researchers are still able to reconstruct.
There's B-dubs? We're not B-dubs? B-dubs out of B-dubs? That really changes everything.
Construct the head using 3D models and get a solid understanding of what these Ice Age wolves looked like. In fact, the specimen was so well preserved that it even still had parts of its brain. Number 5, lion cubs. As I mentioned before, Siberia is a place that is fairly popular for finding frozen specimens, and this time they didn't just find one animal, but instead 2 matching ones. They found 2 mummified cave lions that lived during the Ice Age around 30,000 years ago, giving them the names Sparta and Horus. They were found in 2017 and 2018 by mammoth tusk collectors, and one of the cubs was believed at the time to be the best preserved Ice Age animal ever found. It was originally thought that the 2 cubs they discovered were siblings, being only a few months old at the time of their death. But research showed that Horus had actually died about 15,000 years before Sparta. Sparta still had her fur, teeth, skin, organs, and even her whiskers, looking like she may have only recently died despite being a part of a species that went extinct over 10,000 years ago. If given a chance to grow up, the cubs would have managed to grow to 5 feet long and weigh almost 1,000 pounds. Number 4, sharks. Creatures that are found frozen in ice don't always actually come from the Ice Age. There are plenty of cold places right now where animals can unfortunately become trapped or pass away and then freeze. In Cape Cod, Massachusetts, it has become startlingly common for giant sharks to become frozen in the ice off the coast. A few years ago, they found a total of 4 different sharks that had all become frozen in the ice and passed away. The sharks were apparently becoming trapped in shallow waters during changing weather conditions, and sudden cold snaps would cause them to freeze and die. The thresher sharks that were commonly becoming trapped were apparently not a very well-studied species, so the bodies that were found were taken and thawed in order to be dissected and researched. The Atlantic White Shark Conservancy even went so far to refer to the specimens as sharksicles, but probably not something you'd want to eat on a hot day in the summer. Number 3, mummies. Human remains are usually found when archaeologists dig up large graves and find skeletons, but in a rare case they managed to find the well-preserved and mummified body of a woman. A group of hikers exploring an Argentinian volcano found the body of a woman who appeared to have died around 500 years ago. The body was well preserved due to the incredibly high and cold elevation at which it was found. It's believed that the body was there as part of an ancient sacrificial ritual, and the woman, named the Inca Ice Maiden, was sacrificed. She was given lots of food and drink before being led up the volcano, where she was left to die of exposure. The discovery of her body was also incredibly important because from samples they took, they were able to discover that she was fighting tuberculosis. And these sorts of samples can help us work towards fighting these diseases in the modern day. Number 2, foal. In the the summer of 2018, they found what they called the best preserved ice age animal ever found. Feels like they say that a lot. Anyways, mammoth tusk hunters in Siberia found the body of an around 42,000-year-old horse skull, incredibly well preserved thanks to the cold temperatures. They say that it was only about 2 weeks old at the time of its death, and they were able to extract both blood and urine samples from it. The discovery apparently pushed scientists closer to the hope that they could bring these extinct creatures like mammoths back to life. I think we should listen to Jurassic Park's warnings and just deal with the animals we actually have right now. I know you might be thinking that the baby horse isn't some terrifying giant ice age creature, but full-grown horses are pretty big, okay, and they're actually kind of terrifying. I mean, they basically walk on one giant finger. It's creepy, and I don't like it. Number 1, baby mammoth. During the Ice Age, mammoths were one of the biggest creatures around, basically being massive furry elephants. This young woolly mammoth specimen was found in, you guessed it, Siberia. This incredibly well-preserved body of a young female woolly mammoth named Yucca is said to have lived around 28,000 years ago, and they were discovered around a decade ago. Due to her good condition, scientists were eager to conduct experiments, and one of those was taking cells from her body. When they put the cells together, they found that they were still active, even almost 30,000 years later. So they managed to technically revive Yucca in a way. At full size, woolly mammoths were usually around 13 feet tall and would weigh around 13,000 pounds, or the same as around 26,000 large oranges, if that helps you picture it.
Number 10 spot, we have a throwing spear. A throwing spear that was approximately crafted over 10,300 years ago was discovered by Dr. Craig Lee from Montana State University in 2007. It was discovered in northern Wyoming. 10,300 years ago. Holy moly. Just saying that is so tricky and hard to wrap my brain around the idea of people existing at that point. But in any case, this spear at first glance appeared just like a stick. But then after closer inspection, he discovered that it was a dart from a throwing spear. At this point, it is the oldest frozen artifact found yet. It's been a source of inspiration for others to continue the hunt for artifacts that are being revealed as a result of melting ice patches. And it certainly has created a sense of urgency for people to get hunting for these unbelievable items. Now, number 9 spot, we have the Yukon treasures. A size 4 moccasin shoe from 1,400 years ago was found melting in the Yukon, and my inner shopaholic is super excited about it. So of course I had to include it on this list. Along with this shoe, 2 other items were found. A barbed antler projectile point from about 1,200 years ago, and throwing darts from 9,000 years ago. Apparently they were found by a husband and wife in 1997 who were hunting doll sheep in the Yukon Mountains when they smelled something extremely strange. It was dung. Yes, poop from a caribou. But the thing is, caribou hadn't been in this area for many, many years, so they decided to inspect it. Naturally, I wouldn't. Anyways, I guess they discovered that the poop was from thousands of years ago that had frozen into ice, and close behind it were these artifacts that had melted along with it. Pretty wild. In our number 8 spot, we have animal hair rope. While out exploring the mountaintops of Western Mongolia, archaeologist and researcher Isaac Hart of the University of Utah discovered something quite interesting that he thought would truly help with discovering more about the Mongolia people in ancient times. They discovered a finely woven piece of animal hair rope. This rope was first thought to have been dropped in the ice recently. However, after scientists performed some radiocarbon tests on it to see how old it was proven to be more than 1,500 years old. Wow, that's some old rope. In our number 7 spot, we have horn curls. On this same trip, looking for more artifacts, Isaac Hart found some Argali sheep skulls and horn curls from 1,500 years ago, which were stacked in a pile by ancient hunters. And this finding completely discounted some old assumptions about the Mongolian people in the past. They were long thought to be herding societies, but these findings showed that perhaps they were big hunters on mountain ice. Wow, sometimes just talking about this just makes me feel super great. Won't be alive today. Although we are all wimps now, just going outside when it's cold, you know, I'm already looking for the outdoor
Where's the outdoor heater? What are we in ancient times?
In our number 6 spot, we have Iron Age tunic. Apparently, as Norway's glaciers begin to melt, archaeologists are beginning to uncover a ridiculous amount of ancient treasures, and some say it is about 2,000 plus items to date. One of the most notable items, in my opinion, is some recovered clothing that was found. Honestly, not one item is better than the other. They all tell a story from the past and help us better understand how mountain populations lived. But still, I think it is so cool to see that they found some clothing that's approximately from 300 AD. An Iron Age tunic, to be exact. It's not that old, though, compared to some of the other items that were found on this day that were approximately 4,000 years old. But still, pretty cool. And one of the older items that was found is in our number 5 spot today, which is the walking stick. Now, this item also is not as old as some of the throwing darts that were found, but it's so unique and cool that I had to put it on the list. It's not just any old walking stick. It's a walking stick with runic inscription. So cool. I actually have rocks with ruins on them at home that I bought from like a new agey store, and I love to look at them. Ruins are truly fascinating and quite beautiful, so I'm a big believer in symbology and the energy and power infused in symbols. So anyways, when I saw this recovered walking stick from the 11th century AD, I kind of freaked out and needed to share. In our number 4 spot, we have arrowheads. This is actually so cool. The entire video has been so fun to research, but finding this out was very interesting. I definitely need to go to museums more. I don't think I knew that I enjoyed history so much. Anyways, in 2003, a hiker was walking in a mountain pass near Sion, Switzerland, when he came across some treasures. Not gold, sadly, but what he found were items that are arguably way cooler from a Stone Age hunter from over 3,000 years ago. They were fragments of a bow, an arrow case, arrowheads, and leg coverings, all believed to be revealed due to the ice in the glaciers melting due to the rapidly changing climate. Pretty crazy. Imagine just going for a hike and discovering some ancient artifacts. I bet you there will never be a more interesting moment in your life. Although, fine, the birth of your future child could be fairly special too. In our number 3 spot, we have the Viking whisks. Technically not considered ancient artifacts, but I thought this was cool and it needed an honorable mention. The melting of glaciers in Norway has actually revealed a lost mountain pass, and with it, hundreds of Viking artifacts have been discovered. The pass was discovered back in 2011, as ever since, the glaciers have continued to melt, and more artifacts have been recovered. The archaeologists believe the pass was used from the Roman Iron Age 300 AD to the Viking Age 1000 AD. From horseshoes to sled fragments to wooden needles to wooden whisks, all kinds of artifacts have been recovered. One of the most unique items include a Viking mitten and a blue textile rug. Wow, imagine finding a rug frozen on a mountain. Also, it's just wild to think that the Vikings had rugs. All I can think of when I think of Vikings is war. So, it's probably just me and my limited imagination due to my limited knowledge of history. In our number 2 spot, we have arrowheads. Over 100,000 artifacts were recently uncovered in a place called Nunavik in Alaska. These artifacts belong to the Yupik peoples who lived there. There have been stories told over many centuries of a gruesome massacre that occurred during the bow and arrow war days, which was a series of long, brutal battles. Up until recently, the area had been frozen in the subsoil known as permafrost. The most notable items that were found were the slate arrow points that further proved the stories that have been told about these war times. Although these items aren't technically ancient, they are truly a wonder for archaeologists to discover, and I thought it needed to be on this list. In our number 1 spot, we have an ancient lunchbox. A 3,500-year-old lunchbox was discovered in Switzerland in the Swiss Alps. Now, it didn't have a 3,500-year-old cheese sandwich in it, but it did have traces of ancient cereal. Whoa. Some ancient dude was just walking around the Alps eating an ancient version of Lucky Charms. The lunchbox is a Bronze Age wooden container, and apparently the food traces were of wheat and barley or rye grains. The lunchbox was made from Swiss pine, and its rim was made from willow, sewn together with European larch twigs. It was found in a melting ice patch in 2012. That's incredible. Probably my favorite find on this list, but anything to do with food just makes me excited. Excuse me as I go pour myself a bowl of Lucky Charms. Feel free to join me if you like.
Kicking off the list at number 10, Arctic hyenas. Only a few years ago, scientists discovered teeth. Yeah, how fun is that? Ancient teeth from Arctic hyenas. Lovely. Now, when you think of hyenas, you would never imagine that they once roamed over Europe and Asia 5 million years ago, right? That's how we think about it. We imagine them scary and drooling in our brains. Remains from these Arctic beasts have been found all over the world, not just the Yukon permafrost. Evolutionary biologist Jack Sung studies prehistoric carnivores, and he knew within minutes that these recent Yukon molars belonged to Arctic hyenas, aka Chasmoporthetes. Number 9, frozen treasure. As far as frozen treasure goes, this is a very recent discovery. We don't find these often or ever, as a matter of fact. Yeah, treasure frozen in ice. This sounds like something from Ocarina of Time. I'm so excited. Back in 2013, an anonymous mountain climber, can't imagine why they chose to stay hidden, they stumbled across a box filled with jewels jammed in the ice. Yeah, hear what I just said. A box of jewels in ice. They had to like breathe on it a bit, melt it up, and then finally pull it out. But alas, once they reported it to French officers, this box contained around 100 precious gems. Precious gems. This was quite the find. Emeralds, sapphires, rubies, you name it. The box was worth $300,000 US, roughly. I find it 20 on the ground. I'm calling it sick. Game over. Where did this treasure come from? Well, since it was discovered on Mont Blanc, officials were able to trace the lost gems back to an Air India flight that crashed on the mountain back in 1966. The lives of 117 passengers were sadly lost, and because of the conditions, it's been next to impossible to recover anything from the mountains, especially that long ago, right? Somehow these family gems were able to see the light again, and yes, before you even ask, the owner did return the gems. Only the thing is, two families claim the gifts, so someone's not telling their truth, my friend. Someone's lying. That means lying, right? I never knew what that meant. When I saw someone do it, I was like that sounds. Interestingly enough, in 2014, a French treasure hunter named Daniel Roche found 50 more pieces of jewelry from the same glacier. So yeah, the world's melting, but we're also finding gold. So, number 8, Western camel bones. Scientific name being Camelops hesperus. The Harry Potter spell turns into a camel. Camelops hesperus. Meaning yesterday's camel in Latin, these bones first appeared in 2008 when gold miners were working in Hunter Creek, just 60 miles away from the Alaskan border, when they suddenly stumbled across these massive bones. The last time these bones were operating, I guess, attached to some meat, was 75 to 125,000 years ago. The remains were in such great condition because of the awful surrounding conditions, right? It was so cold that scientists could still extract DNA, and that DNA told us that
Before a jacket can become a Carhartt, it's gotta earn its patch. A Carhartt jacket can't
10 million years ago, roughly, Western camels split from modern-day camels. They were like, hey, it's not working out. You got the 2-hump thing, I got the 1-hump. It's cold, you're hot. I don't know. I never called the imaginary camel hot, but here we are. That thumbs up for hot camels. Number 7, blood red waterfalls. I'm sure you've seen this at some point, so I have to, of course, mention it in part 2. If I came across this in the wild, I would be quite alarmed. I would ask some questions as well. On the southern side of our planet, there's a waterfall in Antarctica that is blood red. The edge of Taylor Glacier houses this one-of-a-kind waterfall. It pours right into Lake Bonny. Now, millions of years ago, when sea levels rose up, glaciers formed at the top of said lake. So this melting water that's slowly leaking out from, a quarter-mile deep, this water is 3 times saltier and apparently 3 times scarier. When the iron-rich water reaches the air, it looks bloody. Therefore scary. Put my hands back down now. Let's move on. Number 6, giant beaver skull. So the Yukon permafrost, it's a hot spot. Ironically, it seems for fossils, spot-faced animals stuck in time and in great condition, luckily for us. Scientific name for this one is Cassarides ohionis. Sure, that sounded like the closest it'll ever be. This giant beaver was on average larger than us humans. They were massive. As Jurassic Park as this thing looks, it only ate pondweeds, which is pretty hilarious. You would think otherwise looking at it, right? One of the largest rodents in history, and they were probably just really cute. They ate little plants. 50,000 years ago, they didn't chop on trees. Just weeds. Nice. I like that. Go eat all the weeds. I hate when they touch my feet when I'm swimming in lakes. Like others on this list, they eventually moved north. They followed the ideal conditions to survive in. That led them ultimately to their icy grave that is now the Yukon permafrost. Here we go. Wow. More teeth. Number 5, Antarctica Pyramid. Over on our History Channel, Bumblebee, I talk about the pyramids in Egypt a lot. Maybe a little too much. Once Once I heard about pyramids in Antarctica, I had to know what was going on. Back in 2016, a mountain in Antarctica was trending online. And we all immediately thought that it was evidence of an ancient civilization, because that's what we want to see, right? That's what we're all waiting for. We're like, James Webb, please show us something scary. Eric Bricknott, a professor of Earth System Sciences at the University of California, reached out to Live Science when this was all unfolding, adding that, quote, pyramid shapes are not impossible. Many peaks partially look like pyramids, but they only have one or two faces like that. Rarely four. That's all it is, just a natural pyramid. Or maybe it's aliens. Who knows? I'm leaning towards the latter of the two. Number 4, 90-million-year-old rainforest. Back in 2020, when we were all catching up on Ozark, disappointing finale, fossil traces in West Antarctica were found. Now this time it wasn't a giant beaver or a bloody waterfall from back in time, I don't know. This time it was kind of nice. This time it was an ancient rainforest. 90 million years ago, when dinosaurs were once walking around, Antarctica was once a paradise. What a sight to see. Researchers compare Antarctica in the Cretaceous period to New Zealand today, right? It was hot, it was gorgeous. With most days on an average of 12 degrees Celsius, like Seattle, right? Some hot days and then some Seattle days. I love how scientists compare eras with modern day city temperatures. Oh, the Ice Age? Oh, a lot of Regina energy there. Yeah, a lot of Western Canada. Very cold. Not ideal for dinosaurs. But apparently it was a paradise. So we missed out. So cool. Number 3, meteorite. For this one, we're going to switch it up, right? Tail their water. They like to jazz it up every now and then. This time, scientists found ice and meteorite, not rock and ice. That's always a good time. James Webb is about to show us how much water is in space, and personally, I'm not ready for it. Back in 1990, the Actor 094 meteorite was discovered in the Algerian mountains. The rock was dated back to 4.6 billion years ago, so scientists studied the meteorite with synchrotron radiation-based X-ray nanotomography. That sentence was choppy because I couldn't say it all in one go, obviously. This led scientists to find evidence of tiny pores. Pores believed to have been fossilized ice crystals. Now these pores may have come from when the meteorite crossed this snow line out in space. The snow line is a sphere around the sun, and it's the exact point where ice on meteorites melts, right? It's the snow line, or you know. This study was to hopefully find out where water comes from in the galaxy, and it seems that it came from a lot further than we all thought. Here's what I'm saying that. I don't like that. James Webb stuff today, I'm like, oh, we're so small. Number 2, Grasshopper Glacier. Yeah, if you're not a fan of bugs, go ahead and skip to number 1. I won't take it personally. Save some bits for that one too. A glacier in Montana is home to many grasshoppers and locusts. Yeah, locusts. That's a fun word. Imagine heading to a glacier and you forget bug spray. Ah, what a fool you are. Appropriately named Grasshopper Glacier, the mile-long glacier near Crook City holds the remains of extinct grasshoppers. Yeah, they're not alive. Don't worry. They're just frozen and then stuck looking at you like this. That's better. These poor guys were traveling to find new life, and they must have gotten caught up in a blizzard a long time ago. Now they're stuck here for another few hundred years. This reminds me of those suckers that have a gross bug in the center, you know? Like a bug. Why do people buy those? I would never buy them. It's so gross. Number 1, fish eat fish. If you know anything about me, is that I'm not a fan of lakes. Not at all. No. Oceans, sure. If I can see my feet, we're grooving. Okay, we're laughing. I'm looking down in goggles and I can't see I'm out of the lake. I'll even strap on my head and just put my eyes in them and put them on the water. This video went viral not too long ago, and it's very real. These 2 brothers were fishing on Indiana's Wawasee Lake, and they saw a pike eating a bass. Only both parties were completely still. Both parties were already dead. Both were completely frozen. How epic. What happened? How are they stuck like this? They posted a photo originally, and nobody believed that it was real, so they had to follow up and post a video where they actually removed this scene of events from the ice. Yeah, I would think this is fake too. This looks like a life lesson somewhere that has to be told. It's a fish eating a fish frozen. You know, there's bigger fish out there. There's smaller fish out there. Sometimes fish freeze. I don't know. There's like 9 more. I don't know what the message is. Number 10, scimitar cat bone. Right off the hop, there's only been a few scimitar cat fossils found in history. Period. So already this is a good one, right? They're not rare finds. I'm into Pokemon Go, so this is like, oh, a scimitar cat bone. Nice. Add that to the collection. The Homotherium latinus lives again. Back in 2011, a bone of the beast was found on a Dominion Creek mining site right next to Dawson City in Yukon. Yeah, if you want to make fun of Canadians for living in the cold, well, joke's on you, pal. We have frozen scimitar cat bones. Yeah, in your face. In your face. Researchers at Copenhagen sequenced its genome, and its parents were only distantly related, so this was a rare cat while it was alive, let alone found frozen 47,000 years later, in 2011. Number 9, the oldest ice on the planet. They say you're as cold as ice, but never as old as ice. Let's change that. Let's make a new phrase. Why not? Scientists are digging up ice in Antarctica. There's pretty much nothing else to dig up, so obviously. Millions of years of ice hides in there, so there's of course millions of ancient secrets. John Higgins, a geochemist at Princeton, believes there's 5 billion-year-old ice still intact. And I want to lick it. I want to see what it tastes like, you know what I mean? Just ready to probe. We're going to say that and immediately the probe thing, but we'll do one or the other. Lick ice and probe it? Look at this guy. One group is claiming to have found 8 million years old ice, but climatologist Eric Wolf from the University of Cambridge says, my attitude is that I accept that it's old ice. I don't know if it's exactly 8 million.
Yo, Tay, are you still on?
That it's old ice. Yeah, scientists are beefing about Ice Age.
Not the movie, but the age of the...
You get it.
There's way too many of those movies there. Like 7 now. Number 8, frozen bird. Back in 2018, an extremely well-preserved bird was found in northeastern Siberia, near the village of Omnifree. The bird itself was quite hidden, which explains its incredible preservation. It was found 150 meters into an ice tunnel. And the fascinating thing here, other than, of course, you know, oh my god, mummified.
The Inflation Reduction Act that was passed just last year, in particular, has a potentially detrimental impact on the development of future small molecules. We're already seeing companies announce that there is a disincentive to develop small molecules. There's a disincentive to further research small as well as large molecules because of the arbitrary timeline that was included in the IRA for price setting.
Bird is that it looks like it died a week ago, right? If I found this, I wouldn't look twice, to be honest. I'd be like, ooh, then I keep walking. You know, one of those? This bird froze 48,000 years ago. A long time. It's been dead. R.I.P. R.I.P. 1,000 times, little dude. Studying the bird's DNA has given researchers insight on the end of the last ice age. We love it. We love new info in the shape of dirty old birds. Nice. Number 7. Ice worms. This is the Dune sequel you didn't know you wanted. Here we go. Around 24,000 years ago, these rotifers, or real creatures, or ice worms, they live in freshwater environments. They've been on our planet for billions of years, so it was only a matter of time before they came back to life. Yeah, that's their secret, chap. They're immortal. Researchers have been studying these little guys for a while. In the past, they found that modern rotifers could freeze and then come back to life 10 years later. Yeah, a microscopic worm with a buzzsaw in the mouth come back to life. The more you know. That thumbs up on most amazing top 10. I'm so scared. A year ago,
worms were found 12 feet deep under permafrost in Siberia's Alizaya River. These ones came back to life after 24,000 years. Must be some Tuck Everlasting water around them or something. I don't know. They're built different. Number 6. Viruses. Before we get into the mummified mammoth cubs, we gotta talk about some concerning finds, of course. Just over a year ago in China, scientists discovered ancient viruses. These samples came from the Tibetan Plateau, and these samples were originally collected back in 2015. The contents, however, they date back to around 14,400 years ago, long before Captain America went into the ice. This is some ancient stuff right here. So dust, gases, and of course viruses over that long accumulate, and glaciers they just soak it all in, layer after layer, just growing, getting bigger and stronger. Well, not necessarily anymore, but you get it. That is until scientists come in with a few mega drills. Now we're finding dinosaurs, and it's fascinating. Except for, you know, when you find 33 ancient viruses in the ice. Wouldn't like that. Yeah, 33 viruses. That's like 2 more than my family computer had growing up. That's a lot of viruses. 4 of these viruses typically infect bacteria, and the rest were novel, which means that it's never been seen before. How neat is that? Novel viruses. Just what the world needs, right? Oh, God. Number 5, preserved wolf pup. This little lady went into the ice 57,000 years ago. I bet she had no idea she'd ever see the sun again until now. Here we go. Discovered in Yukon, Canada, Zur is the most complete wolf mummy that has ever been found in history, ever. She's incredibly intact. She was discovered in 2016 by a gold miner while they were blasting water at frozen mud. They thought it was treasure, but really it was just this little shiny lady instead. She's quite old to us, but when she went into the ice, x-rays tell us she was only 6 weeks old. It's pretty sad. X-rays also showed that she loved fish. She had a belly full of fish. She was eating good until she froze. Sad. Number 4, underneath Thwaites Glacier. We've seen some fascinating stuff here on Most Amazing Top 10, specifically underwater footage. I can't do that, but they love giving me those lists. I get nice and anxious doing those ones. This is footage from the bottom of an Antarctic glacier. This is incredible. This is something we shouldn't have been able to see in our lifetime. This glacier is the size of Florida, okay? So if it collapses, our sea levels could rise 10 feet. So yeah, let's drill a hole through the middle and see what happens. We love it, all in the name of science. This was back in 2019. Researchers drilled 2,300 feet through the Thwaites Glacier and dropped a robot with a camera down. This is the first time in history we've seen the grounding zone of Thwaites Glacier. Lead scientist Brittany Schmidt says this project is a dream come true. It's her walking on the moon moment. There's only 1 meter of space between the bottom of the glacier and the rocky seafloor. So you're seeing the bottom of a continent, basically, like in Smash Bros, the very bottom of that floating arena. That's it, right here. Underwater. I'm so scared. I feel so small looking at this. Would you swim underneath it, Chris? No, I wouldn't either. I would do this and then go back. Screw that. Yo, it's deep too, and it's like literally like it's like a triangle at the bottom, and it's like you see the ocean floor is like right there. I'm like, this is actually really scary. It gets my heart going. I can't do this. I'm afraid of lakes and fish and ghosts. Number 3, Europa Cryobot. We've talked about Jupiter's moon on this channel often for some reason. Apparently there's a lot of going on up there. But now we found traces of water on the icy shell of the moon, which is fascinating in general because water in space, I mean, hello, have you seen Alien or Aliens or any movie in space? The part that really has NASA's attention here is the tectonic activity beneath the icy shell, meaning that somewhere in the middle there could be warm water flowing. Yeah, there's this spa. You could just float. There's a lazy river on this moon. We love it. One of the only ways to get under that thick shell of ice and find out what's really going on is Valkyrie. Yeah, not the superhero from Thor. She's a cryobot that NASA created specifically for this mission. Yeah, a little pricey, but she's doing the trick. This machine is capable of melting through layers and layers of ice. A prototype was tested recently in Alaska, and the results were promising because, you know, it worked. So yeah. This cryobot is capable of crawling through 8 kilometers of ice a year. So while we do tests here on Earth, we're just gonna keep finding more fascinating mummies or disgusting, scary things like viruses. One of the two, it's science, hey, we're doing our best. Number 2, Project Iceworm. This one has no actual worms in it, just so you know, that was the gross one up there. This is more of a government one, here we go. As a Canadian, this secret project sounds like the worst one on this list. Ah, it's so cold. I'm sick of the cold. Had it. Back in the 1960s, under the Greenland ice sheet, the US Army started to build mobile nuclear missile launch sites. Yeah, codename was Project Iceworm. And now we're still finding a whole bunch of gadgets and bad stuff there, so they didn't do a great job cleaning up. The idea here with the project is that they would be close enough they could hit targets within the Soviet Union, right? That was the whole point. This project was called Project Iceworm, but there was also another project, a little secret one, called Camp Century. This one had to be done first. Camp Century was a network of underground tunnels and places for workers to stay, like a kitchen, a hall, supply rooms, communication centers, all good stuff like that. There's also a nuclear power plant, and this was kept from the Danish government for 7 years. So yeah, some secret nuclear activity. We always got to talk about that on Most Amazing Top 10. Back in 1966, the project was canceled because of shifting ice. Or was it? There's still some activity going on over there. No one knows what's up. Thought I'd get that in your ear before we do our big bad number 1. Here we go. And finally, coming in at number 1, preserved mammoth cub. In 2010, a mummified mammoth cub was discovered in Siberia, right off the coast of Oyogos. Named after a nearby village, Yuka, the newfound cub is now the best preserved mammoth discovered in history. This was a fascinating find that should have never been seen again, let alone seen in such great condition. Guy looks like he was in Ice Age, like the movie Ice Age. He looks great. But that's not the end for the woolly mammoth. No, it was announced only months ago that a team of scientists and entrepreneurs over at a company called Colossal are planning to bring the colossal woolly mammoth back to life. Here we go. Imagine driving and you see one of these crossing the street, you're like, I guess we'll wait. The last mammoth to walk on the planet was alive around 10,500 years ago. But what if they were alive today? What's the whole point, right? Why are we doing this? Colossal raised over $15 million, and they're now working on reviving the woolly mammoth to ideally decelerate the melting of the Arctic permafrost, and to ideally save modern elephants from extinction, and of course to advance CRISPR editing, because, you know, we can. Why not? Hey, let's bring this back to life because CRISPR editing, the classic CRISPR.
First up in our number 10 spot, we have mummified remains. There is a huge debate surrounding if George Mallory was actually the first man to ever reach the summit of Mount Everest or not. In 1924, George Mallory, along with his climbing companion, Sandy Irvine, was spotted through a telescope a mere 200 to 300 meters shy of the summit. But sadly, they never returned, leading to almost a century of speculation as to whether they actually were the first to reach the top of the mountain or not. Years later, in 1999, the remains of George Mallory were found, mummified and lying head down on the north side of the mountain. And it was widely believed from the injury marks that Mallory died from a
Why are so many businesses using Snapchat ads? Let's ask Playbite.
We realized there was a big
sharp blow to the head caused by crashing into a rock jutting out on the mountain. So definitely an unsettling thing to come across. However, the group that discovered him hoped Mallory's camera would be with his remains and that once and for all they would be able to settle the debate if they had reached the summit or not all those years ago. But the camera was nowhere to be found. Moving on to number 9, Rainbow Valley. Don't let the cheery name fool you. Rainbow Valley is anything but. The area found along the northeast ridge route unfortunately is not a fun stop along the hike, but it is actually a pit of dozens of dead bodies from hikers who did not survive the journey. The area earned its name due to the amount of bright jackets and gear either left behind by climbers or still wrapped around their frozen bodies. And many hikers who have passed it and survived the journey say it is a very freaky and eerie section to walk through. There are apparently corpses strewn across the mountain in this area, despite the fact that Nepal law states that bodies should be removed immediately to keep the sacred sanctity of the mountain. However, it happens so often that it is virtually impossible to do so. According to Strange Remains, other climbers will occasionally attempt to push them to a better resting place, but as they are frozen solid, sometimes that is not even possible. Moving on to number 8, a UFO. So this next one isn't technically a frozen thing that was found, but it's a pretty crazy story about something that was seen on the mountain still, so I had to include it today. Back in 1933, while on his first attempt at Everest's summit, English climber Frank Smythe was alone on Everest's North Ridge when he witnessed something that would leave him speechless. He says he saw, quote, 2 curious objects floating in the sky. They strongly resembled kite balloons in shape, but one possessed what appeared to be squat, underdeveloped wings, and the other a protuberance suggestive of a beak. They hovered motionless but seemed slowly to pulsate, a pulsation incidentally much slower than my own heartbeats. What's more is that prior to this alleged UFO sighting, Smythe claimed to have been visited by some unidentifiable force during his ascent and felt a strong presence beside him as he moved up the slopes. Apparently, he even took a slice of mint cake from his pocket to share with this invisible companion, having believed the immaterial entity to be entirely real. Moving on to number 7, a frozen astronaut. While on leave from NASA, Carl Gordon Hennies decided to take a hiking expedition to Mount Everest with a British research group called High Adventure BVI, with the intention to test the tissue equivalent proportional counter at different altitudes. This study was going to reveal how people's bodies would be affected, including the way bodily tissues behaved when struck by radiation, which was important for the planning of long-duration space missions. However, unfortunately, the mission didn't go to plan. Prior to the start of the hike, Hennies acclimatized in Nepal, followed by acclimatization at Expedition Base Camp in China, and following those, Hennies with 3 members of High Adventure BVI began the hike on October 4th, 1993. However, Hennies soon reported breathing problems on his way to advanced base camp, and when the oxygen treatments failed, they decided to return to base camp. Tragically, that night, Hennies died in his sleep from high altitude pulmonary edema, and his body was left on the mountain per his own request prior to heading out on the mission. Coming in at number 6, green boots. One of Everest's most notorious landmarks seen on the North Route is called Green Boots, and it is rather darkly named after the green mountain boots worn by the corpse, who not only marks the spot, but also whose identity is still up for debate. It's unknown when the term green boots became the unofficial official name for the corpse and the area, but it was first recorded in May of 1996 by British filmmaker and climber Matt Dickinson, and eventually, over the years, it became a common term as more and more of the expeditions from the north side encountered the body of the climber curled up in the limestone cave. Now, as I mentioned, it's not confirmed who this climber was, but many suspect the corpse belonged to Indian climber named Zewang Paljar, who was part of an Indian summit attempt in 1996. Paljar and his team members were caught in a blizzard, and sadly, all but one succumbed to the elements just after descending from a successful summit attempt. The infamous green boots and the man remain to this day and serve as an eerie landmark for hikers passing by. Moving on to number 5. Maurice Wilson. In 1933, Maurice Wilson hatched a plan to fly into the northern slopes of Everest, crash land his plane, and then solo climb to the summit. He trained in Britain, hiking and learning to fly planes before spending the winter in Darjeeling, where he prepared for his climb by fasting and praying, which he believed would be enough to see him to the peak. His plans, however, to fly a plane close to the summit and then hike from there were turned down by the authorities, and so he had to go to Plan B. Instead, he decided to start his quest from the Rombuk Glacier. So Wilson set off on foot, but with a lack of climbing experience, a lack of how to use equipment, and putting too much faith into prayer to get him all the way, he soon found himself in over his head. Then on May 22nd, 1934, he was eventually blocked by an ice wall, and the following year in 1935, his body was found in snow surrounded by his blown apart tent. Next up at number 4, David Sharp. After 2 unsuccessful attempts with groups in 2003 and 2004 that resulted in him losing several of his toes to frostbite, David decided his goal to reach the summit of Everest was not yet over. In 2006, he made his 3rd and final journey, and for some reason was determined to make the trek without supplemental oxygen and minimal equipment. Now, it's been debated whether David actually made it to the summit or not after all, but at some point he began a descent, but sadly, he never made it all the way down. David crouched down in the shelter of the Green Boots cave we spoke about earlier, and ultimately succumbed to the horrifically frigid elements overnight. Now, what's especially scary about David Sharp's case in particular is that allegedly at least 40 other climbers were recorded passing by him prior to his actual death, and the other climbers were accused of ignoring the unspoken climber's code of helping out their fellow travelers when they are in distress. Now, according to them, David was already too far gone by the time they passed him, but either way, passing a man actively dying or passing an actual dead body are both scary options if you ask me. Moving on to number 3, a familiar face. As has become abundantly clear during this video, there are sadly quite a few dead people along the route to the summit of Mount Everest. But I would imagine this man's experience would be one of the more jarring ones. In 2011, Rodney Hogg was attempting to reach the summit on Everest when he actually bumped into a corpse who seemed eerily familiar. As it turns out, it was. The perfectly preserved body belonged to his late friend, Peter Kinloch, who sadly, after conquering the summit, suffered snow blindness during descent and died on the way back down. Although his guides and Sherpas tried desperately to help him down the mountain over a span of 10 hours, they were soon deprived of oxygen and began to suffer hypothermia themselves and were eventually forced to leave him behind. When his friend Rodney found his perfectly preserved icy corpse a few months later, he spent a few moments paying his last respects and then continued on with his attempt. Coming in at number 2, Sleeping Beauty. Now, if you ask me, I think the nickname is a bit morbid, but that really is what this woman was called for many years. In 1998, American climber Frances Arsentiev was joined by her husband Sergei and successfully became the first woman to reach the summit without the use of supplemental oxygen. But sadly, she did not get a happy ending following that. Just 1,000 feet away from the summit, her nearly frozen body was discovered by 2 other climbers, Ian Woodall and his fiancée Kathy O'Dowd. Following the unspoken climber's code, the couple gave up on their own journey to assist her and help her survive any way they could, but sadly, they soon realized it was already too late. Apparently, her husband Sergei had left after attempting to supply his wife with oxygen and medicine from fellow climbers, but died trying to find her again. And the climbers said Frances's last words to them, "Don't leave me." For years, her body remained frozen in plain view, but in 2007, Ian returned to Everest and brought her body to a lower position to rest in peace with a proper burial.
What are you reporting? With someone or something crawling around out here. Did you see what it was? Was a person or an animal or? I can't tell. All I know is my central light came on and I just happened to glimpse and see this thing running across the yard. A good-sized man or something. It looks like a man. I don't know what it was. Just that it ran across the yard. Okay. You've had problems in the neighborhood before? Yeah, my dog was killed here just recently. I don't know what it was. Whatever it is, it's running. Couldn't catch it if I was going to chase it. But whatever it was standing up. I'm out here looking through the window now and I don't see anything. I don't want to go outside. Jesus Christ, you better... Tia! Hello? Get somebody out here. What's going on now, sir? That son of a bitch is about 6'9", I don't know. You see him now, sir? Yes, I'm looking right at him. Uh-oh.
Sparkling or tap?
Thanks, but we brought our own filtered water.
Dad.
At Culligan, we think about your water, so you don't have to.
Starting off this list in our number 10 spot, we have KV-55. This is a tomb that is referred to by a number rather than a name because we don't actually know who lies inside of the tomb. While this tomb had its modern discovery in 1907, we still haven't quite found the answers surrounding this mystery. To make things a little more eerie, while the walls of the actual tomb are bare, which is bizarre, as you walk down the steps towards the tomb, you'll notice that there are some markings leading up to it. You'll see inscribed on the wall of the entrance the words which can be translated to, quote, "The evil one shall not live again." If this wasn't enough to give you an unsettling feeling, the coffin inside of the tomb has been desecrated with part of the face having been removed as well. So, all in all, we don't know a lot about what's going on down there, but it doesn't seem good. In our number 9 spot today, we have Chapter 17. Archaeologists had a large and very exciting discovery as the 4,200-year-old funerary temple of Queen Nerit, who was the wife of the pharaoh Teti, was found. The recently excavated Siraka necropolis was stocked full of incredible treasures. Inside, there were over 50 wooden sarcophagi, there was a board game, a riverboat with rowers, statues, wooden masks, a shrine dedicated to the god of the dead Anubis, and there was a burial sanctuary dedicated to the queen. And while all of these are truly unbelievable finds, one of the most fascinating to researchers was a scroll from the Book of the Dead. The 13-foot-long papyrus scroll, which is referred to as Chapter 17 of the Book of the Dead, acts as a chilling guide to the afterlife. In our number 8 spot today, we have Golden Tongues. A team was working at a temple on the outskirts of the Egyptian city Alexandria when they discovered 16 burials in rock-cut tombs. It was here that they found some mummies that unfortunately had been poorly preserved over the last 2,000 years, but it was what they found with these mummies that was exceptionally interesting. Inside a few of the mummies' mouths were golden tongues nestled inside of their jawbones. It is thought that the dead were given these gold foil amulets that were shaped like tongues so that they could speak before the court of the god Osiris in the afterlife. Osiris is the god of fertility, agriculture, the afterlife, the dead, resurrection, life, and vegetation, and he was also the judge of the dead, so it is imperative that those headed to the afterlife impress him. When we break it down and understand why these gold tongues might have been placed with the bodies, it becomes less of a horrifying discovery and more of an absolutely fascinating one. In our number 6 spot today, we have Marcus. Inside the necropolis of Porto Sarno, which was found in the ancient Roman city of Pompeii, a tomb was found which held the remains of Marcus Venerius Secundio, and these remains are the best preserved ones ever found in ruins. The partially mummified remains included hair and bones and even a partial ear, and they belonged to Marcus, who was a former slave who was able to rise through the ranks. This discovery was unusual because tests showed that Marcus died around the age of 60, and during Roman times, adults were usually cremated. After being freed from slavery, Marcus was able to join a college of priests who were in charge of a form of emperor worship. Being buried inside of a tomb is a reflection of the fact that when he passed, he was in good social and economic standing. It is believed that this tomb dates back decades before the eruption of Mount Vesuvius in 79 AD destroyed Pompeii. In our number 5 spot today, we have Tomb Storeroom. During the excavations of a 2,600-year-old vast necropolis that sits just south of Cairo, researchers unearthed a tomb, of course, or else why would I be talking about it right now? But here's the thing about this specific tomb. It had a storeroom that was housing about 24 mummies. The tomb was located at the bottom of a 36 feet deep shaft, and the 22 mummies were found along the tomb walls. The mummies are believed to date back to 640 BC during the 26th dynasty, which was Egypt's last independent kingdom. Many of the mummies were unfortunately poorly preserved, so their identities, as well as the reason why so many were put into one room, is left as a bit of a mystery. In our number 4 spot today, we have a Bronze Age tomb. Imagine you're a farmer in Ireland and one day you're just minding your own business and somehow manage to stumble upon an ancient tomb that's basically been untouched for thousands of years. Well, that's pretty much exactly what happened when a burial site was uncovered on southwest Ireland's Dingle Peninsula. Inside this site, researchers found human bones along with items that may give us some insights into prehistoric burial and death rituals. This tomb is believed to date back to the Bronze Age, but unlike other tombs from the time, this one was completely underground, which means that it may be even older than once suspected. The tomb was found during some land improvement work when literally a stone was turned over and it revealed the chamber underneath. In our number 3 spot today, we have mice. A couple years ago in 2019, as archaeologists were searching through a well-preserved and beautifully painted tomb that had been found in the Egyptian town of Sohag, the tomb is thought to be from around 2,000 years ago and was built for a man named Tutu and his wife. Other than the human mummies that were found inside of this tomb, researchers also found animal mummies, including dozens of mummified mice. This tomb is one of 7 that were found in the area after authorities found smugglers digging illegally for artifacts, which honestly sounds like it should be the plot of a movie. While I'm sure these kinds of discoveries are insanely important and helpful for all kinds of researchers, finding dozens of mummified animals along with human mummies probably isn't the nicest discovery there's ever been. In our number 2 spot today, we have a gibbon skull. Gibbons are a type of ape that are often characterized by their swinging ability coupled with their loud, bright calls, and the 8th century Chinese poet Li Bai described their voices as they swung past the Yangtze River. But here's the thing. Today, there are no gibbons that live anywhere near the river. Also, the gibbons that exist now have different fur patterns from the ones that are often depicted in classical Chinese paintings. This has led experts to believe that there must have been another kind of gibbon that has now vanished, and physical evidence of this kind of gibbon might have turned up in the most unexpected place: a tomb. This tomb, which was built for the grandmother of the first emperor of China nearly 2,300 years ago, contained a skull and a jawbone so distinct that scientists believe they must belong to this member of the now extinct gibbon genus. Many surviving gibbon species are now facing extinction, so it is likely that there were others in the past who unfortunately faced the same kind of fate. In our number 1 spot today, we have canopic jars. This is a discovery that is actually quite a common find in tombs, but that doesn't make it a pleasant one, although there is a reasonable explanation behind this. Canopic jars are often found in tombs, and in 2018, in the tomb of Carabaskin, which was found on the west bank of Luxor, there were some well-preserved jars found. The jars were made of Egyptian alabaster, and they most likely held viscera. That's right, folks. These jars usually held the organs of the person inside of the tomb. They were used during the mummification process in order to store and preserve the organs so that they could be used in the afterlife. There wasn't just one jar, but rather a jar for specific organs. While in modern times this is a gruesome discovery, it's also absolutely fascinating to see how people of the past cared for those who have passed away, as well as seeing how strong the belief in the afterlife used to be. Starting off this list in our number 10 spot, we have a black granite sarcophagus. In 2018, archaeologists in Egypt found a massive black granite sarcophagus in Alexandria, Egypt, that dated all the way back to 2,000 years ago. Rumors immediately started swirling about what this sarcophagus might have contained, but the best way to find out? Well, you have to open it, of course. Instead of some crazy curse being unleashed, the first thing that escaped this tomb when opened was a horrible, unbearable smell. Apparently, it was so bad that the site had to be evacuated for a while before they could return to finish opening it up. When they finally were able to completely lift the lid, they found a red-brown-like sewage water flooding the bottom, which is likely where that horrible smell was coming from. Other than all that gross stuff, inside the sarcophagus were the bones of 3 people. Unfortunately, the mummies did not end up being well preserved, so only the skeletal remains were still intact. It is believed that the people inside may have been soldiers from the time of pharaohs. This is believed because one of the skulls had a crack in it from an arrow. There was a bust found along with the tomb, but unfortunately due to time past, it has been weathered beyond recognition, but that is not the only way researchers can find out where the soldiers are from and what time period they lived in. In our number 9 spot today, we have the knife-armed man. In 2018, while researchers were excavating a 1,200 to 1,400-year-old necropolis in northern Italy, they made a gruesome discovery that led to us learning a super interesting story of someone who lived all those years ago. Inside this necropolis, there were the remains of a man, but what set him apart from the others is that he had a knife blade prosthetic arm. Further analysis of his bones showed that his arm had been removed via blunt force trauma. Normally, all those years ago, the wounds would have killed you. If not from the blood loss, then from infection, because of course this was a time before antibiotics, but somehow this man managed to survive it all, and in doing that, he made himself the scariest prosthetic limb I've ever heard of. He replaced his missing hand with a long knife buckled to his arm with leather straps. It's like pretty metal. In our number 8 spot today, we have the Tomb of Thomas. A few years ago, archaeologists were searching in the tomb of Thomas, who is a high-ranking Egyptian official. Within the tomb, they found jars that contained something they weren't exactly sure of. Well, further research was able to date this substance back 3,200 years ago, and guess what it was? Cheese. Dr. Enrico Greco from the University of Catania, who worked with colleagues from the Cairo University in Egypt to determine what this substance was, said, quote, "The material analyzed is probably the most ancient archaeological solid residue of cheese ever found to date. We know it was made mostly from sheep's and goat's milk, but for me, it's really hard to imagine a specific flavor." While this is a super cool discovery and one that gives us incredible insight into those times thousands of years ago, imagine finding a 1,000-year-old cheese. That sounds absolutely disgusting. Honestly, I'm so grateful for the scientists who put up with things like that so we can have answers to these sorts of things. In our number 7 spot today, we have cats. In 2018, archaeologists were excavating a 4,500-year-old tomb that was found near Cairo, and if you're a cat person, this one might be one for you to skip over. Inside of this tomb, not only did researchers find 100 gilded wooden cats along with a bronze statue of Bastet, the goddess of cats, but they made the startling discovery of dozens of mummified cats. It is known in ancient Egyptian culture that cats were highly regarded and admired by humans. They weren't necessarily worshipped or anything like that, but they did see them as divine. The tomb these cats were found in has been dated back to the 5th dynasty of the Old Kingdom. While the looks of the cats is an absolutely horrifying one, not only was this find incredibly interesting, but it also showed that the mummification process is highly effective. In our number 6 spot today, we have scratch marks. When archaeologists opened a tomb they had located that dated all the way back to the Qing dynasty, they certainly did not expect to find what was inside. They weren't shocked to find the remains of a person, but what was shocking was the state she was in. Her skin had turned black like charcoal, and she had a terrifying expression on her face, with her mouth wide open like she had been screaming. To make matters even worse, apparently there were scratch marks that she had left on the inside. Further research showed that it is believed that this woman suffered from a difficult birth, and during labor, she fainted. Since childbirth used to be a way more dangerous activity, it is thought that her family believed she had passed away, and then they buried her, and of course you know the rest. What a horrifying story for everyone involved. In our number 5 spot today, we have the Silver Sumerian Harp. The Silver Sumerian Harp was found in a very large royal tomb of ancient Sumeria. You might be sitting there thinking, a harp isn't exactly terrifying, and I agree. This harp certainly was not a terrifying find, but the scene it was found amongst absolutely was. The tomb contained not only the harp, but the musician who was playing it, along with an entire group of musicians, servants, and several soldiers, all who were sealed in this tomb while they were performing their duties. Many of them were dressed in what was considered formal attire and were wearing gorgeous jewelry. The area where all of these people were found is referred to as the death pit because of the large number of bodies found within it. Music was an incredibly important part of life, celebratory, and ritual occasions in ancient Mesopotamia. In our number 4 spot today, we have the Tomb of Sunken Skulls. In 2009, archaeologists were excavating the bottom of a prehistoric dry lake bed in Sweden when they began to find the foundations of some sort of a stone structure. Yeah, we're talking about a tomb found at the bottom of a lake. Further research began to unearth the usual things like animal bones, stone tools, and that sort of thing, but they also uncovered skulls belonging to 10 people that are believed to have lived 8,000 years ago. They found another 11th skull buried deep within the mud, and when they uncovered it, they found that fragments of another one of the skulls had